Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening. And now, it's time!
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. How are you all? Inshallah, everyone can hear us. And we have an expanded panel today with the brother from UK and the USA, Brother Trey. And we will only hope to grow the cadre, grow the dream team, inshallah. Lots been going on, of course, and today itself is a day which many people are commemorating in a bad way, as well as those Muslims who will be fasting according to the Sunnah. You have the people of extreme Shiism going to extremes on what they will class as their day of Ashura, the day of mourning of the martyrdom, as it's styled, of Hussein bin Ali bin Abi Talib. We could just talk about that on its own, but there's other things have happened which are related to the issue of Shiism and extremism and Sunnis and others than that, and the correct approach with regards to controversies and unity in Orthodoxy. So we're going to jump straight into it, and everyone will have the mic as and when they request it. And inshallah, towards the end or after we've did our piece, we will invite the viewers, to come on and also participate. And we've actually got some guests lined up as well as opening it to the general public. So without further ado, if you will allow me to, I shall start with a video or two, starting with this one. Now, this is from a
hardline literalists
stream that was done with Sneeko, but I'm just going to play a few minutes interjected of clips of speech that Mohammed Hijab made, and they will lead us into the longer podcast that he did with Haqiqatjou. So let's scroll back with clip one.
Hardline literalists and proto-Salafists, what they say is anybody who wants unity, okay, anyone who's calling for any sort of unity is calling to the Ikhwan methodology, which is the brotherhood methodology, which is absolutely an absurd and preposterous statement, because the Quran itself quite clearly talks about unity. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, that hold to the rope of Allah and do not be disunited. And there's lots of actual dispraise and condemnation of people who divide in the Ummah in the Quran itself. It's very clear. There's no difference of opinion about it. But the reason why they use this language is because they have a problem with the unification of Muslims.
So just on that point, brothers and sisters out there, do we, what he calls proto-Salafis, have a problem with unity? Before you answer, let's talk about terminology here. Proto-Salafi, proto means the pre or the original Salafis. It's a nonsensical term. Salafi means pre. Salaf, i.e. those who came before us, the pious predecessors. And so by Salafi, we mean those who would wish to receive the religion from the Prophet ﷺ, his companions, and their successors, who are praised in the revelation. That's what we mean by Salafism, Salafiyya, without, inshallah, any of us, God forbid, falling into Hizbiyya, partisanship, crass sectarianism, bigoted pride and arrogance, looking down upon others. That's not what we mean by Salafiyya. We simply mean recognizing the truth that was revealed to Muhammad ﷺ, and which he passed on diligently and dutifully and completely to his companions. Allah be pleased with them all. And then they passed it on to their successors, their children, their successors. And that's the religion of Islam that we take from them. So now he's coined a term, proto-Salafist. And earlier he's used the term neo-Salafist. So proto-Salafist, if we were to translate this, would mean the proto-Muslims. It makes no sense. Why do you use these terms, neo-Salafi, proto-Salafi, and later on we'll hear another one from him. If you have a neo or a crypto or a proto something, it means that these are all aberrations. These are not the true picture. There is a true Salafiyya and there's a neo-Salafiyya. There's a true Salafi and there's a proto-Salafi, or there's an extremist Salafi. Okay, which is the true Salafi then? he will never acknowledge this reality that, okay, there has to be a true Salafi. Again, not necessarily someone who goes around calling himself by that name, but recognizing the truth of the Salaf Salih that came before us. He will never acknowledge this. And this is part of the game. Why? To break away from orthodoxy. Because if you're true to the term and say, no, what I mean are aberrations from true Salafism, which is following Quran Sunnah upon the way of the Salaf, then you'd be obliged, dutifully obliged, to agree to that, acknowledge that, and follow it and cultivate it in the best of your capacity. But as we will see, or as we've been seeing, he needs to justify going against orthodoxy, which is why he uses these strange, contradictory, oxymoronic terms of proto-Salafi, also neo-Salafi, and so on. But anyway, on this clip first, brothers, let me know your thoughts. He says that Salafis, for the sake of argument, Orthodox Sunnis, are opposed to unity.
Yeah, I mean, the first point, as you mentioned, he's not seeing the Salafis as the default. He's seeing it as a sect, an invented sect in the first place. Would you agree with that, Abdurrahman?
100%. 100%.
You know, that's why that's the whole point of terming it that way.
Okay.
But then, as Abdurrahman said, that he himself must understand the beauty of that name, that he can't just use the word Salafi. He has to add on something to it, the proto-Salafi, the neo-Salafi, something to try and separate a new hizb of Salafiyah, according to him, that deserves to be looked down upon or dispraised.
Yeah. And
Hey,
I was
quickly.
I was discussing it with you, Abdurrahman, before. But it's basically like if you were to ask any Salafi or any, like what I think most Salafis would believe, if you ask them, would you like to see like a united ummah? They would say yes, like upon like the correct beliefs and with, you know, no shirk and bid'ah. That's what they would want. But if you go and ask, like, you know, the madhabis or the like these guys, what they would want, like their ideal ummah is like actually division. Like they want, you know, they want the four madhabs and they want the different Sufi tariqas, and they want you know, four maqams in Mecca. They don't even want to. They want to pray behind a Hanafi. They don't want to pray behind or pray behind a Maliki or something like. So if we're talking about do the Salafis want unity? Yeah, obviously. I mean, even looking at the destruction of the maqams is a proof of Salafis wanting to cause unity between Muslims and unite the prayer into one prayer. So
just before we go to Casey, just to be clear, for those who don't know, we're not opposed to madhab schools of jurisprudence per se. It's bigoted, sectarian, blind iftiraq, not ikhtilaf in issues of fiqh, but iftiraq, which is splitting and you know, hatred and all this kind of stuff and envy that comes out of bigotry, not necessarily the following a school of jurisprudence. Got out there eventually per se. Casey, up to you.
Yeah, just quickly, like when you talk to people like Mohammed Hijab, they always bring up, you know, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا, and these type of other verses and hadith. Of course, we follow this ayah and other ayahs like it, but what's the habl? Because you're saying, okay, we need to hold on to this rope, right? But do we agree on it? Because there are multiple different ropes, there are multiple different sects. So we don't even agree on the fundamentals. So how are we going to hold on to one rope? There are like 50 ropes. We don't agree on basic fundamental issues. It's like, you know, there's the saying from the Salaf. Obviously, this is the meaning of it. أنت الجماعة ولو كنت وحدك. You are upon the truth. You're the jama'ah, you're the community, you're the group, even if you're alone by yourself. Right? So we don't have this kind of idea of numbers and this. No, it's about going to the truth. Now, the hablillah, we can agree upon it, which is the sunnah, and based on the understanding of the Sahaba, but we don't agree with you guys on it, right? Because you guys have your own ways of understanding text and understanding Sharia and Aqeedah and other things, so we cannot get to one agreement. So yeah.
Indeed. Let's go straight to the second clip. Sorry.
Later on in some of the points that I've made, we'll see later on in the stream that we'll come back to this.
Right. Yes, we will.
Again, the stream, because you'll see that, you know, our version of unity, or the correct Islamic version of unity, is uniting upon the Quran and the Sunnah, united upon primarily Aqeedah. And of course, there is certain circumstances when Muslims, even with not necessarily the fully correct Aqeedah, would unite as well. However, you'll see later on in the stream that this is not the methodology of Daniel or Mohammed Hijab, and they have their own methodology in what they want to unite upon, and they put Aqidah at a different level, and their primary focus is politics, and actually, your views on feminism and Israel, etc. This becomes the primary focus for them, and you'll see that later on in the stream.
Okay.
Now, when I say they, who I'm talking about, you've got the extreme proto-Salafists. They're called Madkhalists, okay? Now, those are individuals who follow a man who died recently called Rabi' ibn Hadi al-Madkhali. In the UK, according to Abu Khadija, who's the leader of the Salafis in the UK, there are about 15 to 20,000 of them. It's obvious to anyone who watches that they're actually funded by America. How did we know that? Because in the RAND reports that are written, it actually says that we fund the Madkhali movements in order to cause division, but essentially.
Okay.
Hilarious. Comedy gold.
Whoa.
Let me get the show rolling here. So first of all, Brother Abu Khadija is in charge of, unofficially, an organization called Selfie Publications. He is a bona fide student of the scholar that was mentioned, Sheikh Rabi' bin Hadi al-Madkhali, to the extent that you could say he's one of his inheritors. That's how the Sheikh in his lifetime presented this group of brothers. That is a particular organization. He is not the head of the Salaf. He's the head of that organization, Abu Khadija. Selfie Publications and these brothers, they are perhaps a minority of those who were described to Salafiyya in the UK and elsewhere, whether you're talking masajid, mosques, Islamic centers, students in universities, Islamic projects, charities. They are a small minority. I'm not saying that to diminish their worth. I'm just saying to take one group, one class of people, or one organization, one institute, probably the best term, take that one single institute and say the head of that institute is head of the Salafis, is nonsense. There are no head. The head of Salafiyya is Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the head of the Muslims. It's as simple as that. If you want to say Qur'an, Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah, Ahlul Hadith, Ahlul Athar, or you don't want to use any label, so long as you acknowledge the truth behind the label, it doesn't matter if you want to ascribe to the label or not. That's not important at all. Again, especially if it encourages people to get into sectarian bigotry and crass sectarianism, I should say, bigotry and partisanship, then no, we don't need labels. But if we understand what we intend something pure by it, no problem. So notice what he's doing now. He started saying proto-Salafi, as in, which means like the earlier nonsensical term, and he says, well, who they really are, they are the Madkhalis, which is not true. Madkhalism, if you want to use that label, as in followers of Sheikh Rabi', they are a minority. And then he says, and then he gives a number, they are 1% of the Ummah. So already and then worst of all, he says they are funded by America, this group, the Madkhalis, and by that he means Salafi Publications, and that by that he means all of Salafis, none of which is true. None of these links actually link together. Funded by Americans. Why his proof? Because the RAND report. I did a video on the RAND report in response to Danny Haqiqatjou specifically, actually, called Why Danny Haqiqatjou is Randy for RAND. There we document what RAND actually say, and they will fund at different times any organization whereby they can counter a problem in the international sphere that they're dealing with. So when the problem was AQ and unaliving people with bombs and so on and so forth, then they funded, then they went after extremists, and they would prop up those who were countering that violent narrative, whether they were Sufi or Salafi. They didn't distinguish, and that's all in the documentation. What do you, brother, say?
It's hilarious how he jumps from one name that he's invented to another name as if it's factual. So he's like the proto-Salafis. The extreme version are called Madkhalis. According to who? Who named them that name? He's just making things up. And then straight from there, he claims that these Madkhalis have an imam, have a leader. It's really shocking the way if he just put in the middle, I call them this, and I believe that this, it would have made the sentence acceptable.
I think the worst thing is, because, I mean, I certainly know, and I know Rahman does, because he's had interaction with Mohammed Hijab, that Mohammed Hijab knows this is not correct. You know, he knows that there's different, if you like, methodologies, if you like. I don't want to separate the Salafis into different sects, but there are different groups, if you like, among of Salafis, who and some are and as any group, there's disagreements within different areas. But the point is that he knows that most people who would identify as Salafi, we don't take anybody as a leader, as you said. We don't sit here giving bayah like some Sufi tariqah.
100%.
And he's making it out like it's a cult, basically. That's how he's making it out. And he himself sought help from Abu Iyad when he was debating David Wood. And Abu Iyad has done great work, we can say, for the dawah. And he's the one who put, if you like, Hijra and Sapiens in their direction, because they were, a lot of people, including myself, back in the day, we were using a scientific miracle narrative and things like that. And it wasn't until Abu Iyad actually refuted that narrative that a lot of people actually came away from that. Okay, and arguably Hijra and Sapiens changed their direction because of Abu Iyad. Okay, and so they don't like to acknowledge these things. But Abu Iyad, and as we know, they've done great work in terms of publications and dawah. That's not to say that everybody agrees on everything, but he's not being fair here. He's trying to cause division, and he's simply not giving Sneeko a rounded answer and a rounded understanding of who he should be seeking knowledge from.
Yeah, and the slander of accusing Muslims who, as you've rightly said, were his benefactors, of being essentially hypocrites, of having sold their religion to American interests is ludicrous. I mean, one could say, just because a report says, not to labor the point, a round report says we need to influence anyone who opposes violent extremism, be they Salafi or Sufi, and more often than not, it's actually Sufi. We need to influence the madhabs. We need to influence the Deobandis. We need to invest in these people. And then they put these caveats, these reports there, but bear in mind, these Orthodox Muslims, they may turn against us because we don't align with them on issues of jihad and khilafah and things like this. So, one could throw the same accusation right back at Mohammed Hijab and say, well, maybe your entire project of causing division and attacking orthodoxy and so on and so forth, of belittling truthfulness, of provoking blasphemy, of all of your crazy behavior, maybe you've been paid as an agent by the Egyptian authorities or other than them to stroke division and cause disunity. I mean, how far do you want to take these conspiracies?
Yeah, you'll see more of this later, by the way, when we get onto the other clips.
Okay, speaking of clips.
The idea that Shia are kuffar is a radical, fringe, and unacceptable view in Islam. Okay, if you look at 1,400 years of Islamic Sunni scholarship, mainstream Sunni scholarship, essentially no one had that view but a few people. And one of those people was Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and his followers. Okay, they believed that. That's why in the year 1818, okay, they went into Karbala, and then they killed Shiites in Iraq and all this kind of things. And it was a massacre that's, in a certain thing. And obviously they will say that they were worshipping graves and all this kind of things. And there may have been, to be fair, like extreme practices there, but nothing justifies massacres, okay, the like of which we read in 1818. Obviously this was after Ibn Abdul Wahhab died in 1793.
So, I mean, we've covered this. This is too much to go into fully. I'll bring Khalid in shortly, but I've covered this. Many of the people have in long form format and videos. But to say that it's just a lie. There's nothing else to say. It's just a blatant lie that from the Pact of Dariyah from 1744, Ibn Abdul Wahhab's students said, okay, you're all Sufis, you're all this, we're going to kill you. They were attacked because they started preaching Tawheed. And we will see in the stream with Daniel, Mohammed Hijab himself says this is outside the fold of Islam, this extreme grave worship, etc. Complete contradiction. So if it's outside the fold of Islam, and Muhammad ibn Wahhab was one of those who made this point or spread this awareness amongst the people, for which then he was attacked physically, they were made war against. And the Ottomans, in regards to the Shia, just to end on this, the Ottomans themselves preceded takfir of the Shia, of the extreme Shia, by hundreds of years before Ibn Abdul Wahhab. The Ahnaf and many scholars, we're right back to the Salaf. And just to be clear, because you never know who's listening, and so we have to have a bit of mercy with people before I bring Khalid on to this point. Just because someone says, we're not saying that just because someone says I'm a Shia, we say you're a kafir and your blood is lawful. We're not saying that at all for all of the Shia as a whole. What we're saying is that there are certain creedal points which, if anyone who claims Islam holds, frankly, he or she has left the fold of Islam. Namely, if you believe the Quran is corrupted, you can't be a Muslim. If you believe that there are 12 demigods, each with the power of control of the universe, ascribing to Allah the power that many of the Christians would say Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, had, you can't be a Muslim. If you believe the entirety of the companions, save 2 or 3, were apostates who tricked the Prophet and murdered his family, you can't be a Muslim. These things, each of these individual aspects is kufr, and many other aspects, but have them together, it's a compound set of kufr or disbeliefs. So and we might find someone will say, I'm a Shia. Why are you Shia? And I mentioned this before. You might say, why are you Shia? Oh, because I love Ahlul Bayt. Well, so do I, brother. No, but I don't agree with the way Hussein was murdered. Neither do we. No, but I don't believe in American hegemony and we need to stand up to Israel. So do we. Do you really know? Do you believe that the companions were all hypocrites? No, that doesn't make sense. Well, then you're not really a Shia. The Shia you think you are. It's the same with many people who will attach themselves to labels. They use these labels, but unless you bring the proof to them and unless they acknowledge their belief, we don't generally go and make this mass takfir. But that's not the same, which is why Hijab has been very duplicitous with this game. That's not the same as saying Shiaism, 12 Shiaism, specifically the mainstream Shiism today, which wasn't always the mainstream, but it has become mainstream in the last few hundred years. They believe these extreme kufri, paganistic beliefs. And that belief itself is pagan, it's pure disbelief. And that's why the scholars say these various aspects, various creedal points, would take a person out the fold of Islam. That's what we mean by Shiaism is kufr. Not to say that we are now going to take every single Shia and automatically call him a disbeliever. Khalid?
Yeah, certainly. As you said, Yani, we if there is any takfir, the general takfir does not apply to the individual. That if we say that anybody who believes this is a kafir, then it doesn't mean that kufr falls upon the head of every individual that we see, or even everybody who makes claims of those beliefs, until, of course, hujj is explained to them and the specific case is taken, is applied. But unlike him, we don't believe in mass accusations. Anybody who has this name, then immediately they're this. Like he calls anybody who's a Salafi or a practicing Sunni, basically, or who believes in obedience to the Wali al-Amr. According to them, they're all bootlickers. They're all this. They're all pro-Israel. They're, like painting everybody with the same brush.
SubhanAllah.
And like you said, the takfir of the Shias is very, very old. And it's hard to believe Mohammed Hijab doesn't know that. It's hard to believe that he doesn't know that takfir of the Shias that happened in the early Muslim, from the time from the Ayyubids, from the Ottomans, it's a very old thing. And then if he wants to talk about massacres, then surely he must have known the massacres that the Safavids did to the Sunnis of Iran and the Sunnis of Turkey or southern Turkey. You must know these things.
Yeah, he just trying to make the bogeyman, the Wahhabis, the bogeyman, and the enemy. And this is the thing. If you look at his other speech, it's questionable whether he's actually doing takfir on Muslim rulers of today, yet he's quick to defend Shiism as a whole. It doesn't make sense. Are you telling me that Shiism generally are Muslims, right? Again, we're not talking about individuals, we're not talking about lay people. We're talking about as a system, as a religion of Shiism, right? You're saying that they are Muslims, but you're questioning, openly questioning the Islam of Muslim rulers of today, which there's no reason to actually believe they're not Muslim. We're not saying they're angels either, but the point is that this is not acceptable. This is very dangerous what he's doing.
Yeah, and just briefly on the Karbala again, simply because it is very poignant today with so many people celebrating or mourning from the Shia side. The massacre at Karbala. Mohammed Hijab mentioned how the quote-unquote Wahhabis, Ibn Abdul Wahhab, after his death, he admitted, in the year 1818, he meant in the year 1802, 1803, the Emirate of Diriyah entered Karbala and a massacre took place. What he's not, and of course it sounds awful and evil and massacre, that's what, demons do, etc. What he's not mentioning, and it sounds very Khariji-esque, admittedly, what he's not mentioning is that the Shia alliance of various Shia, allies had conspired against the Emirate of Diriyah, and they'd attacked it repeatedly. And at one stage, they massacred a caravan which was protected by the Emirate of Diriyah of Sunnis passing through territory. So Shia came down and they massacred. Some figures say 300 people died. Civilians, just a Hajj caravan returning back to their homes. So the Emirate of Diriyah petitioned the governor, the pro-Ottoman vassal governor in Iraq, in Basra. They said, we want this taken care of. These people murdered, our people under our charge. You need to deal with this. And they ignored it until eventually it came to blows. And even then, the Iraqis, the governor of Basra, he preempted an attack. So then the Darians counterattacked, and then they entered Karbala. And most of the people had left because that was the day when they were celebrating something to do with Ali. I forgot which day it was exactly. Some Shia ceremony. And so most of the civilians had left, but you had the people of the retinue of the grave, of the alleged place of the mausoleum of Hussein, etc. They were the ones who were left. And basically there was some killing, maybe 2,000 people, which they exaggerate to 5,000, 10,000, etc. But that's happened. And then on top of that, the Ottomans themselves, a few decades later, came and massacred far more Shia, who they were actually responsible for. And they killed women and they killed children. And these are the Ottomans, as Khalid mentioned, who were takfiring the Shia, extreme Shia, for many, many centuries before then. Anyway, let's go to...
Well, I just wanted to say one last thing is when he
Ibn
said
Taymiyyah,
no major scholar. He said no major scholar until
Yeah.
Abdul Wahhab. And I don't speak Arabic, but there's some, and I'm not got the greatest memorization of hadith. But the one thing that immediately jumped to me is there's a famous statement of Bukhari where he said about he didn't mention 12verism because I don't think the 12th Imam was even born when he was alive, or maybe he was born during Bukhari's life, or I don't know, it hadn't been formed as 12er Shiism, but he mentions Rafidi. The word he uses is Rafidi, and he says that like their women shouldn't be married, you shouldn't eat their food, or I can't remember the exact.
You can't pray behind them, and
can't pray behind them.
Yeah.
And that he saw Christians and Jews. He saw no difference between them and Christians and Jews.
That's right.
So
and Imam Malik,
they're worse now, by the way.
And I think Bukhari is a pretty major
Malik
scholar too. So that's, I don't know. He said no major scholars. I would consider him pretty major, and Malik as well.
Yes, Khalid Qaisi, you were both going to say something?
I was just going to say something.
Qaisi.
They're actually worse now. Like we have statements from the Imam of the Madhahib about the Rafida, but they're worse now. Like certain beliefs, they kind of came out later on in terms of theory-wise. Like as an example, the idea of the Quran being muharraf, the scholarship and the writing didn't happen very early on. This actually happened later on. So when we have by the way, I think the brother mentioned this, but like every single madhab we have scholars saying this about the Rafida. It's not like one or two people or Bukhari or this. It's something. And by the way, it's not just a concept, but we need to talk about the Shia, are they kuffar or not. It's about this concept of what's ma'loom bid-din bid-darura, meaning something that is known of Islam and the religion by necessity. So these are issues, and like fundamentally we don't play around with it. It doesn't matter what you call the madhab. You can make a new madhab tomorrow, and if it has certain ideas and beliefs, then this madhab it's kufr. We can't, it doesn't matter if it's Shia or, because just you guys of course know, Sufis have how many turuq? Just in the one, let's say the whatever Naqshbandis, right? How many turuq and differences and disagreements, and this sheikh went against this sheikh, and million different bridges, and everyone has their own thing, right? Their own kind of small sheikh and believe in that type of thing. But all of them are kuffar, no matter what name they have or new thing they bring out. You know what I mean? It's the same exact thing. So
who Salafis also take from didn't say that. He said the Shiites, the mainstream Shiites, they are not disbelievers. So where did they get this information that Shiites are disbelievers, that the mainstream masses are disbelievers? This is a fringe and extreme and isolated view that only some people in the last 200-300 years of Islam, who had also made takfir of Sufis, by the way, and the Ottomans, because the Najdis made takfir, the Najdi Dawah, made takfir of the Ottomans. Okay, they said that the Ottomans were disbelievers.
Okay, we already covered that. So let's go straight to clip number 5, and we'll end with this, and then we'll move to the next stream, inshallah, next podcast clips.
How I put it is free Sunni. We're free. We're not told what to do by governments. That's the difference between us and them. They're told what to do by state-interested governments. Tell me who is freer? The one who, like me and you, we have, let's be honest, granted by the state, actual freedom of expression. We can say what we believe politically. A lot of these people cannot say exactly what they believe. Otherwise, they'll be arrested, they will do this, they'll be tortured, whatever will happen to them, right? So they are not free. So they have no right to speak. And those in the West that follow those unfree men, okay, then since you're following the unfree men and they're not free, therefore you're not free. Okay, because you're following an unfree man and they're not free, and the whole institution is state interested. So we are the free Sunnis. We are the main, bro. We are the mainstream Sunnis, the hardliners and the fringes, and you're gonna see them all over your comments, bro, all the time. Just always put in your mind they represent 1% of the Muslim populace, and they probably represent 1% of the scholarly tradition as well. And these people who say that Shiites are kuffar, or this one's a disbeliever, these are extremists. They're, by Islamic standards, they're fringe groups.
So that's the last clip. So basically he's saying that because he's in the West and he can speak his mind, he is the true Sunni. Whereas the Muslims who live in the land of the Muslims, or those of us who live in the land of non-Muslims, but we respect and seek knowledge and take knowledge from scholars who are in the land of the Muslims, we are not free. So he's basically saying, in order to be a true Orthodox Sunni Muslim, you must be living in Darul Kufr. You must be benefiting from their secular liberalism in order for you to truly worship Allah and express your Islam. But as for those who live in the land of the Muslims, in this fantasy world where apparently prior to 100 years ago, the Islamic lands were also liberal democracies, apparently, because he's saying that this only happened since Ibn Abdul Wahab. Prior to his time, apparently you had some kind of liberal democratic setup where everyone was free to speak their mind. That was true Orthodoxy. I mean, can you imagine the turning things on its head, brothers?
Has there ever been a time in Islamic history when somebody like on his level of knowledge, and me also, and most of us on the panel, would be the ones actually at the forefront of Islam anyway? Like it would be the scholars who would be speaking. It would be the scholars who would be giving the knowledge. Why does he think that a layperson like himself should be the one to be speaking out in the first place? He's claiming, he clearly doesn't have the knowledge, because from what he's saying, but he just contradicts himself in many areas.
Yep.
And the concept of freedom is somehow praiseworthy, according to him. Freedom from what? To do what? We wonder.
It's ultimately the freedom of your mouth. You're going to be accountable for everything you're saying.
Words in Islam, words are like actions. The good of them are good, and the evil of them are evil.
The Prophet came, the famous hadith when he mentions about the flies or around the fire, and his job was to waft them away from the fire, to protect them from the fire, and part of that is that in Islam there is no freedom of speech for you to come out and start speaking anything you like. We already have a system. We have the Quran and the Sunnah to guide us, and we have the many scholars throughout history that have explained it for us. It's clear we don't need anything new.
I wonder if Mohammed Hijab would have advised Imam Ahmed when he was put in prison by the Khalifa to make Hijra to Byzantium to search for freedom.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
Okay, I want to add something as well. You mentioned that he says that everyone in the land of the Muslims, they're controlled. But he just said in these clips that they're also bought and sold in the lands of the kuffar. So
Yeah.
basically, what he's telling you, okay, when you go to the Muslim lands, they're all controlled and they can't say whatever they want. When it comes to Britain and other places in the West, but they're also bought and sold. So okay, so where is an area or a place or people that are not bought and sold or not controlled? Oh, so it's you and your
him.
people. So where do we go? The lands of the kuffar, we don't go. The lands of the Muslims, we don't go. Where are we gonna go? We're gonna go to some uninhabited land? Like I don't get it. What's some random island? You and your
what's
friends are gonna
rule it there? Like,
and who's gonna
are
rule
we
it?
just gonna
I'm assuming it's gonna be him, obviously, but
and then
Well,
can anyone criticize him?
3 of the brothers on the stream are in various parts of the Muslim world, without going specific, in the Maghrib, in the Jazeera, in the Hijaz, in the Levant. I lived in the belly of the beast, Riyadh, for a decade. I felt more free, just like no one's controlling you, brothers. You can let me know if I'm mistaken here. I felt more free in Riyadh than I do here in the UK. We all do self-censor ourselves so we don't get our door smashed in, and that's happened more than once. There was one country or one part of the world I was in on a regular basis. I'd get arrested, interrogated, and everything. But that's a choice I made, and it's certainly not one I had to fear when I was in certain parts of the Middle East, brothers.
Yeah, there's no such thing as full freedom of speech. I don't care where you are. Even as we mentioned last week, even if you're in the UK, if you start questioning certain things, they're going to take your children off you. They're going to come. You're going to look. Mohammed Hijab himself lost his job through dawah, right? He lost his job as a teacher because he was active in dawah. You can't live in the UK and have full freedom of speech on everything you want to do. That's not how it works. You use your wisdom. Of course, there's certain imams in history when there's certain topics, they do not stay quiet. Like Imam Ahmed, like you mentioned, because this was a very important topic about the Quran, right? But other than that, you have to use wisdom. Sometimes there is a benefit of remaining silent because there's a greater good to the larger community. But he can't see the nuance in this. And the thing is, even in the UK, I left the UK because of how dangerous it was. I was getting constantly harassed by the police just for giving dawah. And this is the time before YouTube, before the big cameras. So, we didn't all have camera phones. We couldn't record what was going on. This happened to many people. I feel so much safer in any Muslim country, whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's Turkey, whether it's Morocco, you name it, any Muslim country, you feel so much safer.
Because surely must be from his misunderstanding of Islam, that when he says we can't speak in these Muslim countries, he doesn't mean call to Tawheed. He doesn't mean call to correct following of the Sunnah. He means something else that he himself has never clearly put on his tongue, which is takfir.
Yeah.
What else can't we say?
I have a very important point.
If you look at the, not to go, just Sheikh Shuaib Hassan, he has a book about his life, and he himself works for Bin Baz, and Saudi funded over 200 mosques in the UK, and the majority of them were actually Diabandi mosques. SubhanAllah.
Okay, we have another brother who's joined us. Let me know with your hand signal, brother, in the back studio, if you'd also like to contribute now. You'd like to contribute now as well? Okay, so I'll bring another brother on. Some of you will know him. This is Brother Abdullah the Luxi, Mufti of Luxembourg, if you like.
That's not me, Akhi. There's somebody else who's the Mufti of Luxembourg.
We voted you. Khalas, you've won the election.
Sorry, I didn't want my name to appear up there. That's quite embarrassing. Okay, so we're going to jump straight now. We're already 40 minutes in, subhanAllah. We haven't even started the main discussion yet. You'll understand. So let's go straight into the main topic here, which is this podcast. Now, I want brothers to shout me out their own timelines. I'm going to start with a timestamp, sorry. I'm going to start with 1 or 2 or 3 maybe. And then I'll let the other brothers give their timestamp. So I'm going to go to, let's see how I can do this. I don't want to make that's what we want. So let's go to minute. Wow, it's 5 hours, bear in mind. So getting I'm not going to get it exactly, but it's a bit. Okay, let's try that one. It's maybe 20 seconds in.
Madkhalist mosque. And if I just made a khutbah, or someone made a khutbah, because I wouldn't be allowed in the mosque. Let's be honest. But let's say someone made a khutbah.
Yeah, dressed like that, you wouldn't.
And they were saying that, you know, Allah says in the Quran, unite together. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Allah says that in the Quran. And he stopped there. I promise you that that person would be refuted by the people inside of that mosque. Why? They will tell him, why is it that you mentioned وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا? Come to hold to the rope of Allah together and do not disunite. And you didn't mention, but we cannot unite upon batil, and it cannot be this, and the innovator that one, and this one here, and this guy here, and this. Why didn't you put all these caveats that we've invented for you?
So a couple of things there just to get the ball on. Notice now he's moved from the term proto-Salafi to Madkhali. He's doing this deliberately. He wants to confuse the audience, because like the brother said, when you have a cult is evil, it's nasty, it's like, backward, regressive, inward looking, as opposed to mainstream, outward, merciful, all encompassing in the sense of its dawah, and it's wanting unity with all of the ummah, wanting good for them. So he's already transitioned to this now, which is using as a pejorative madkhalis. But then he quotes, as we mentioned earlier, this ayah, hold all of you to the rope of Allah, وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and he says they will stop you from reading this. He's just inventing this scenario. If I was to read this verse, I will get stopped. They'll say, why didn't you put these caveats in? The ayah has caveats in it, as we've already mentioned. Hablillah, the rope of Allah, which Qurtubi and others mention, is the book on the Sunnah. And in the same tafsir, he mentions the hadith of the 73 sects. That this, because it says وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, and don't split up. That is a caveat, that don't become a sect. So when you're calling people to unite upon the book and the Sunnah, that is unity according to this ayah. Yet he's twisted it, he's turned it as he does on his head, saying that you won't be allowed to quote this ayah, which is nonsense, in his fantasy, khutbah. You won't be allowed to quote this ayah unless you put these caveats in there, when the ayah itself is implicit in restricting you to the rope of Allah and not to divide into sects. Brothers.
Sorry, just can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Abdurrahman, if you can just go into your YouTube channel, you can make me a mod, and I can just monitor the comments.
Section. Yeah.
Okay. On YouTube,
It would be easier just mod me, because the brother has a camera on, but it's fine if you want to.
Anybody, if you can mod a few of us, then we can keep an eye on the comments, because it's getting a bit.
Okay, I need to go to. Okay, I'll do that while someone takes the.
Go for it, Abdullah.
Yeah, well, I'd like to address the trolls. We seem to have Hijab and Haqiqatjou fanboys in the chat. I'd like to make a few points concerning the way Mohammed Hijab has conditioned all of y'all to follow him like sheep. Number one, Mohammed Hijab is completely exempted from proving his claims. And that we see is a very close similarity with Yasir Qadi. Yasir Qadi, when he went off, he started making very broad claims that were always completely devoid of any backing up, and people were clapping to it. Like, for example, in the clip that Abdurrahman you showed, Hafizakallah, he says mainstream Sunni scholarship for the last so many years. Ya ikhwan, do you realize the weight of this claim? How much do you have to analyze? How much do you have to read? How much work is there to make any claim about mainstream Sunni scholarship that doesn't exist? And this is why a lot of scholars have explicitly stated that there is barely a thing that can be said mujma'un alayh, for a very simple reason, is that you are unable to verify that there is no khilaf. especially after the first few generations, the ummah has gone so broad on so many issues that verifying the existence of a khilaf is practically impossible. And the Asha'ira, they are champions at claiming ijma' on all their own masail that they actually even disagree upon themselves, and then make takfir of whoever disagrees with it. And Muhammad Khalid,
you see that with the real scholars, they'll say things like "La na'lamu fihi khilaf." We don't know of a difference of opinion of this. We haven't heard of a difference of opinion. They're always polite. They're always understanding that there's things outside of their realm of knowledge. They don't try to claim something outside of it. Rather the opposite. They're always willing to admit their lack of knowledge, and that's the sign. Yeah.
Okay.
And this will very often be within one single madhab. It's not even al-fiqh al-muqaran, like comparing madahib. But Mohammed Hijab, he allows himself to make these broad statements, and the followers they're absolutely fine with that.
And this is another amazing thing. He's talking about ijma' al-ummah while he's making a serious effort of throwing somebody out of that ijma'. There's no ijma' al-ummah for those who he's declared madkhalis or bootlickers or any other of the names that he chooses to insult the Muslims with.
Exactly. And all of this brings me to the next point is all of your trolls and all of your followers of these kind of people. I want to ask you, what is your safety net? What is it that a human being can do to say, hey, yo, please reconsider this? What is it that we would have to show you at this stage? Whether we saw it with Yasser Qadi, and I believe Qaisi, he done that comment in your last stream, that Yasser Qadi, despite everything that happened, people are still following him. Mohammed Hijab, despite everything that happened, despite everything he said, people are still following him. And it's the same with Ali Dawa and Haqiqatjou. So these people are on record being exposed for being lying, being fusaq and other things, but it's fine. So dear trolls, dear blind followers, dear sheep, where is the safety net for you? What is it that is gonna enable you one day to just take a step back and reconsider things critically and wonder, am I gonna swallow every last thing these people are feeding me? Because one thing is for sure, look at this, all the clips that you have shown, Abdurrahman, except for his tadlis with the ayah in this supposed khutbah scenario, there is never talk about text of revelation. And it's the same thing with Haqiqatjou. When Haqiqatjou was asked about, why did you leave Najdi theology, or however it was phrased, I thought this and that, and then I read what Subki said. Oh, really? You read what Subki said? Well, congratulations, man. Who the hell is Subki? And what proof did Subki bring you? What ayah has Subki brought you that tells you that Tawheed is Allah mawjood bila makan? Because, now you're backing up Asha'ira and their likes. That Tawheed is Allahu A'lam what bizarre stuff that the Shia are claiming. And that Tawheed is not what is all over the Quran. وَاعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَلَا تُشْرِكُوا بِهِ شَيْئًا. يَا قَوْمِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مَا لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَٰهٍ غَيْرُهُ. Where is all of this gone? All right. So these people are specialists at completely just
ignoring
ignoring and making their followers ignore the text of revelation. Yeah. So Muhammad Hijab is saying, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ. What's Hablullah? You are the ones who are putting people away from Hablullah.
Okay,
that was the Ottoman Empire. So they had to theologically justify why they're going against the Ottoman Empire. And that's it. It's not as rosy and as puritanical as you think it is. I know in terms of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab himself, all right, someone will say, but you shouldn't mention anything about the Sheikh. How dare you mention anything about the Sheikh? Okay. But I didn't even mention anything about him.
Under his...
Out to be some sort of defender, like defending himself, like a pacifist, not pacifist, but someone he's defending it. But because of the aqwal that he says, in kunna la nukaffiru man ya'budu al-qubur, and whoever, if we didn't, make takfir of the people who do worship the graves. So people look at these aqwal, but in terms of like in terms of the Western academic sphere, essentially everyone agrees this was an expansionist, it was a militarist, it was, and even the like historians from the East. So everyone agrees except for one or two people.
So again, it's bit difficult to get the exact timeline because it's such a large, long, stream. But basically, he's saying that from what we've already covered from 1744, that the Emirate of Diriyah was violent. They started attacking people with expansion. Yeah. Okay, expansionist as opposed to which Muslim country?
As opposed to what? Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to which Muslim dynasty? He makes the point that they went against the Ottomans. How did the Ottoman Empire come into be? Yeah. How is it that they were in charge of Hijaz Aslan? Was it not through fighting the Mamluks, massacring them, many of them, taking the rapine in Cairo for 3 days and nights? He should know. He's from Egypt, right? That's how Egypt was taken by the Ottomans from the Mamluks. Was that not preceded by takfir?
And were the Mamluks not a sultanate as well? You could say that it's a rebellion. Mamluks were established sultanate
with the sitting caliph, with the sitting Abbasid caliph. Although he's a paper caliph, but still, it was more than the Jinkisid line which the Ottomans had. But on top of that, they justified the conquest of the Mamluk Empire on the basis of mass takfir. The Ottomans made mass takfir of the Sunni Mamluks. Why? Because the Sunni Mamluks wouldn't kill Shia. They wouldn't unite with them to fight the Safavids. Therefore, you're kuffar like them. That's what the fatwa came down to. The firman, but now we're supposed to believe that no. The only time you had an expansionist Muslim state was in 1744 onwards, or since Ibn Abdul Wahhab decided, as Haqiqatjou describes him, some kind of Daeshi type of psycho who wanted to just kill everyone and murder everyone. We kind of already covered this clip because we're really pushing it. We've already onto our second hour, so I'm going to move on to a next clip, maybe a different. And of course, we've covered these issues in length anyway in other places. If someone wants to know, let's go here. I'm trying to be second perfect, but it's difficult. We're going to miss a few seconds.
And views. So, for example, they will usually revere like the modern, I would say, non-violent ones. Yeah. They usually revere obviously the Salaf themselves, although they have very limited discussion about those. And then they'll have, maybe some of them will discuss like Al-Lalaka'i and Ibn Battah and Barbahari and those, more so than the Sahaba themselves. And then afterwards, they'll start talking about Ibn Taymiyyah. Imam Ahmad first, then Ibn Taymiyyah. And then after Ibn Taymiyyah, they'll start speaking about, for example, the Najdi Dawah. And then after that, there you have Ibn Uthaymeen, Ibn Baz, etc., etc. So this is when you're a Salafi. You're inaugurated with that. You're told the modern Salafi is given that sort of distinction. You've got to follow these scholars.
So here he's doing what he's been doing throughout. He's trying to box Muslims based on perhaps his own experience, because no Muslim, no quote unquote card-carrying Salafi I know says unless you have a particular fondness for a particular set of scholars, then you're from the saved sect or you're a true Sunni. No, it's following the book and the Sunnah upon the way of the Salaf. Whichever scholar comes with that in any generation, or maybe you won't find any scholars in a particular generation, doesn't matter. As long as you're following the Quran and Sunnah to the best of your ability, you are a Sunni, Orthodox, Athari, Salafi. And he's now, because he's maybe abandoned the term Madkhali as we go, and only takes it again later. He's abandoned that proto-Salafi term. Now he's saying modern Salafi. Okay, and he's tying this in with the Madkhali label. Okay, what about the pre-modern Salafi then? What about the time in Egypt, Ahmed Shakir? Or what about the Shawkani? Why won't you say following them is to be upon Salafiyah? Why won't you go back as if it's only Ibn Taymiyyah, only Imam Ahmad Ibn Taymiyyah, and then you have three big scholars in relatively recent scholars, Bin Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, Albani. He said that's it. Basically, the Salafis have these 5 names, and in between then you have no scholarship. I mean, that's you projecting your own ignorance onto other people. You fetishizing names of personalities who are popular and making an entire religious discourse around them. None of us do that. I mean, I don't believe anyone, at least on this stream, does that. And if people do that, they limit themselves to a few names, then that's upon them. And again, this is him saying how the trajectory that he was upon in the London Dawah scene, and now he's bringing it and imposing it on other people.
what is his issue? What is the actual issue he has with this modern Salafi dawah? Is it the funding that he was receiving? Because we all know Ayera was supported by the Gulf, subhanallah, and he used to work with Ayera. Sapiens is an offshoot of Ayera. They were also supported. I personally know very nice, amazing brothers in the Gulf who have supported the dawah of Ayera and Sapiens. And because originally Ayera, and it is today, it gives basic dawah, you know, but he doesn't have an issue with that, does he? What is the actual issue he has? What is this modern Salafi dawah he doesn't like? Can you give us an example of it?
There's a very important thing. I don't know if you guys catched it, right? Which is crazy what he said, by the way. He mentions Lalaka'i and Ibn Battah. First of all, he mentions them like they're his neighbors. Like he just was walking down the street and, Assalamu alaikum Lalaka'i, like he's, just some random person. And then he says they quote Lalaka'i or Ibn Battah or they use their books, but they don't actually focus on the Sahaba. Brother, just let's pause for a minute, okay? Because I don't know if he thinks everyone doesn't read, but we read. Lalaka'i in his books and Ibn Battah, the whole book, it's like talking about Lalaka'i like that way is like saying, oh, you guys follow Bukhari, you read Sahih Bukhari, you follow Sahih Bukhari, but you don't follow the Salaf. Brother, do you know that in the book of Lalaka'i and Ibn Battah, it has the asanid from the Sahaba. Like the whole book is about Sahaba. It's not him talking. So I don't think people comprehend how stupid what he just said is. How Lalaka'i saying we don't follow the Sahaba? They quote from the Sahaba with asanid. It's like Bukhari, how you have the asanid going back to the Prophet in the books of the Salaf, like the books that Lalaka'i wrote, and Ibn Battah and other books. It's asanid. It's like saying, oh, why did talking about Musannaf Abdul Razzaq or Ibn Abi Shayba, other books that compile the narrations of the Sahaba, and saying you follow Abdul Razzaq or Ibn Shayba, but you don't follow the Sahaba. Oh, this is so crazy,
ridiculous.
That was it for me. And Abdurrahman, Ana Sta'dhin, it's midnight here. I'm trying to get my 4 hours sleep before Fajr. Jazakumullahu khairan. Thank you for having me on. Wafakumullah kulli khair. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Okay, let's move along.
Ad hominem against you, whether it is to call you the N-word, saying that you're, this and that, you're African, like attacking your family. Then they say that you're potentially kafir, Uncle Shekel Collector, as we call him. Comes on and says that you are potentially a kafir. Imagine that. I thought this is someone.
So
Adnan Rajid comes on and says you are potentially a kafir. Imagine that.
So I just want to get comments on. He's talking about a Muslim here, who he hosted Adnan Rashid. He's called it Adnan Rajid, making a slur against him being of South Asian extraction, calling him a shekel collector, which is an accusation of nifaq. He's essentially saying he's taking Zionist money in order to oppose Haqiqatjou's vacuous calls for unity. I say they're vacuous, his and Hijab's calls for unity, because they, as other people have pointed out, they are the first to attack other Muslims, and then when you criticize their injustice, then they run to unity, as if it's some kind of defensive shield from criticism for ignorance and for lying, for smearing, bringing the dawah into disrepute. You call this out as what happens in public, so you call it out in public, and then say, we just want unity. Something you hear from the 12ers often. Go ahead, brother.
It's amazing how they think an accusation of kufr is so funny, as if it's something that they are so high and mighty and perfect that they could never say a word of kufr. That the companions, Ridwanullahi alayhim, the best of humanity after the prophets, used to fear for themselves nifaq. And these guys think that it's funny. It's funny because it's so absolutely impossible that somebody of their greatness could ever have said something that could be wrong or could be fall into, in fact, the statement of kufr. No, impossible.
Yeah, it makes me laugh because I was supposed to be on last week and I couldn't because I'm off. But I was watching back last week's episode, and within like the first clip I think you post of him, Mohammed Hijab in the last live stream, he calls him. He says when you're doing your tasbih, you should say Alhamdulillah and think of me. And I know, and people are gonna begin to bring excuses and whatever, and maybe he didn't mean it. He didn't literally mean what, but like any Muslim, any lay Muslim, let alone somebody with millions of followers who's like in the dawah, should know. Like I know to like I would never like even to compare you to say when you're saying God, you should think of me is a crazy statement. That's a statement of kufr, statement of shirk. Like you're attributing, you're saying you're God. Like I don't know. So it's just I don't know. It's so funny.
You know, that's such a valid point you just made. I mean, if you really understand who Allah is and the importance of shirk, like how dangerous shirk is.
No
like,
one would even go to that.
Yeah, like I came to UK recently, right? And we're talking about living in the Muslim countries, right? It's something that you don't find in the Muslim countries. I went to a restaurant, and it was supposed to be a halal restaurant, right? Or at least the meat was halal. But they had these fortune cookies, and the lady gave a fortune cookie to my daughter, right? And I was showing my daughter, you know, the shirk. I was showing her what's inside and how it. I was trying to explain it. I was making a moment of teaching her about it, right? And I actually opened the cookie, and I didn't mean to, but I read what was on it, and I felt bad. I was like, subhanAllah, you know, if you when you want to worship Allah, you don't even want to be close to these evil things, you know. One thing I will say is I'm just disappointed that hijab is not defending Adnan Rashid. Adnan Rashid is his close partner, right? Musa Adnan, his son. I know Adnan Rashid very well. I don't agree with everything, but I would not speak about Adnan in this way, in such a disrespectful way. Adnan, mashallah, has done so much for the dawah that even the Deobandi brothers in Bradford are defending Adnan from Mohammed Hijab and Daniel. Subhanallah. You know, this is not a way to speak about your Muslim brother anyway. Of course, we're refuting points. You know, this is nothing personal. We're refuting the points that they're bringing. But to sit there and just name call and throw dirt like this, it's not acceptable.
And the thing is, Daniel will be the first to spit his dummy out. You know, back in the day when he was on the kind of AQ kind of takfiri flex, you know, and we were making points against, you know, some of the things he was saying. And then he said, "Oh, you're going to get me unalived. You want me to get, you know." We're not saying that. We're just saying this is wrong. This is what Islam. This is what you're saying, and you're saying, you know. But you know, you want to get me exiled, and but he's doing the same thing. I've obviously skipped past a lot of it, or I'm going to skip past a lot of it. But he basically says that he says about Adnan, or he's with Daesh, he's with ISIS, and what a ridiculous thing to say, you know, honestly. And is that not putting him in danger now? Is that not going to get him, you know, in trouble and his family?
6 years ago, when I made that video with Sheikh Tahir Wyatt about Daniel was an extremist then. He was a takfiri. And he's gone from being a takfiri, and he's just gone through each and every group. As you mentioned, you know, he went to the Deobandis, now he's with the Shia. He's just been going through every group. SubhanAllah.
Speaking of which,
why you will not find scholars doing it. There's a tribal element, there's a cultural element, and so on and so forth, Akhi. But having said this, what I will say is, one question I have for you is this. So one of the main refutations you've done on Amr Sulaiman, going back to this point, is when he did that libation thing on the floor, blah, blah, blah. And you said he was doing shirk and blah, 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 he needs to come out. Okay, but now your views on shirk seem to have become more lenient and changed. If I might be honest with you and tell you that, right? So, for example, I don't know if you were defending him, but there was this guy that was like an extremist, essentially, extreme Sufist. He was, I don't know what he was saying, that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam basically can control the atoms of the creation. And this, did you see this? He was saying that he can create another universe or something. I don't know what he was saying, something like this. He can hear everything. He knows everything. I don't know what to make. Either he's mentally ill or that he's not a Muslim. Sorry to say, this is beyond the pale, bro. This is the kind of thing that's too much, bro. So you were kind of giving him courtesy, and I was thinking, okay, well, if you're giving this guy courtesy here, bro,
you're talking about Sheikh Yasser Hanafi?
Yeah, of course I know. No, I'm not talking about Hanafi. I'm not talking about Yasser Hanafi.
No,
I'm
that's
talking
what,
about, there's
is
like
that
a
the
man
clip
who's
you're talking
speaking,
about?
I'm talking about a guy who's speaking in Arabic, yeah, and he had like a guy that was translating for him. Did you get it? He had a guy that was translating. I think he might have been Mauritanian. He was wearing a Mauritanian garments. I don't know if we can find this. And he was saying that
you're talking about Sheikh Salek.
Okay, now let's bring up the clip because they don't. I don't believe they bought the clip up here. Thankfully, I've got it, so I'm going to play it because it is quite something.
Salek.
This guy was saying that the Prophet Muhammad can create the atoms, or he can do this and he can hear that, and bro, the stuff he was saying was extreme on anybody's estimation.
Yeah, so Sheikh Salek, I mean, this is what the Wahhabis will mention, but the position that he was talking about is a respected position, the Shafi'i school. He was expressing the Shafi'i position on the kind of fadl that has been given to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Allah.
Wait. Let's bring what he said. Can we bring what he said? Have you got his video?
Is it permissible to ask the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam directly, not to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or to ask the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to ask Allah for you directly, but to just say, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, give me this. I want this. And the other part of the question, or the part of the answer is, was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam given the ability to do with the world as he wills?
نعم.
Yes.
له التصرف في الكون كله.
Yes, he is permitted and entitled to do with the kingdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as he wills.
يعطي منه ما يشاء.
To give from it, to portion from it,
ويمنع
what he
منه ما
wills.
يشاء.
To prevent from it whatever he wants.
تمليكا من رب العالمين.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him the authority to do so.
تمليكا من رب العالمين.
Where is the shirk in
لو
that?
قلنا يا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نريد بالخير الدنيا منك ما نريد.
That if we ask the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
نريد
we
من
want
خير
from you
الدنيا منك ما نريد.
from whatever the goodness of this world and the hereafter, what we want from you.
أخبروني بين الشرك في هذا.
Tell me, where's the shirk in
وأين
that?
المساواة لله بهذا.
How is this equaling him to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? هل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يعطينا هذا بنفسه؟
نعم يعطينا هذا.
Yes, he gives us himself. The question is,
ملكه يعطيه.
what is his property he gives?
هل ترام يعطينا من نفسه؟
Does Trump give us from himself? If we
ولله
ask
المثل
him?
الأعلى. أعوذ
And
بالله.
to Allah is the highest example.
وللنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم المثل
And to
الأعلى.
the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the higher example.
You ask, what's not allowed to ask from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Can you ask the Prophet, ya Rasulullah, guide me and my family?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's it. Brothers.
Subhanallah.
لا إله إلا الله.
Subhanallah.
لا معبود بحق إلا الله.
So, can I just start?
As Brother Qaisi said, معلوم من الدين بالضرورة.
Yes, just quickly, brothers, right? I wanted to comment when I first heard this clip from Daniel, before we go into what that guy said, the mushrik. Daniel, he said something very crazy. He said this is a Shafi'i opinion. There's a phenomenon, ikhwa, I'm sure you've seen this, not just in Aqidah, but in fiqh, where people will come and they will say, brother, this issue, no, this is the Maliki position. This is the Shafi'i position. This is that position. And I just quickly to just kind of diverge, that we've seen this even in when it comes to the beard. I know it's a fiqh issue, but it's a different issue. But they come, akhi, and they bring our opinion 1,200, 1,300 years after the Prophet, where there's pretty much ijma' already. And some random Shafi'i or some random Maliki, they have that wrote something in a book. And then now this is a Shafi'i position and opinion. طيب, I'm Hanbali, right? I said this. Now this is an opinion in the madhab. خلاص. I can say whatever, I'm Hanbali. طيب, I'm صاحب خلاف. I'm صاحب نظر. Everyone will look at my opinions and everyone will look at what I have to say and it will change the madhab. Is this how the madhab are supposed to be? We're going to play around with the religion of Allah? This is not how it works, ikhwan. This is not how we look at khilaf and how we look at the opinions in the madhab. The opinions in the madhab and the people that have their positions are even mentioned out of the thousands of scholars throughout history are very few. When you go back, let's say, as I'm Hanbali, right? I go back to book of Insaf. When an opinion is mentioned, how many people are mentioned that are quoted from their opinions? Very little compared to how many scholars we have in every single qarn. So now you're gonna come and say, "Oh, this is Shafi'i opinion." Who said it? And is it based on the usul of Imam of the madhab, Imam Shafi'i? Whether you talk about the mutaqaddimin or mutawassitin or mutaakhirin. So this is now starting to get to a point where you're just making whatever claim you want to make without any evidences based on the madhab. Bring me the books in the madhab that are mu'tabar, right? Let's talk about the Shafi'i madhab, right? Bring me the books of the Shafi'i madhab that are mu'tamad, and bring me this opinion that you brought. Wallahi, he won't be able to bring it.
It was a very dirty trick for him to say that, as if there's a madhab that has that opinion, as if there's one of the four madhabs that allows for that kind of, the four fiqhi madhabs, not aqidah, which is madhabs aslan.
I have a lot of experience.
As if Imam Shafi would have accepted this.
Exactly. I have a lot of experience with these arguments that they mention. You know what happens a lot of the time? They bring some random risala from some guy who's Shafi'i a couple hundred years ago, and some he was probably Quburi, Ash'a, whatever, and then they say, oh, this is an opinion of the Shafi'i madhab. Is this how it works? Is this how we're going to make the madhabs? Where any person, some random person in whatever qarn, he says something, this is now a mu'tamad qawl. Let's talk about the books that are mu'tamad. Go to Tuhfat al-Muhtaj. Bring me the opinion from Tuhfat al-Muhtaj. Right now, the mutaakhirin of the Shafi'iyya, when they want to find the mu'tamad opinion of the Shafi'i madhab, you go back to Tuhfat al-Muhtaj. I dare you bring me this from Tuhfat al-Muhtaj, or the books of whatever, the mu'tamad big scholars of the madhab. It's impossible. You can't just say things and we're going to accept it from you. It's not possible. Now, there's another very important thing with that other guy who, I don't know what his name is, the Mauritanian scholar, whatever.
Salik.
His name is Salik. He says,
who almost definitely wasn't Shafi'i.
Yeah, most definitely wasn't. He maybe claims he's Shafi'i, but he's not Shafi'i. Because he doesn't follow the usul of madhab. He doesn't follow the usul. If we go back to the usul of madhab, the Shafi'i madhab, or go back to the riwayat of Imam Shafi'i, of course, this is going to be very distinct to his belief. But he was basically, he has the same kind of position that Shia have when it comes to Ithna Ashar Imam. So he basically is saying that the Prophet has tasarruf, meaning he can control and do whatever he wants, and he can give it to whoever he wants as well. And this, by the way, even a Sufi thing. They believe this with the aqtab. They have 4 different aqtab, which are like these kind of entities that control the poles. They control the North Pole, the South Pole, and some even they remove it outside of the poles. They say also, as well, the East and the West and the South and the North. So this is like a very problematic belief. It's found amongst the Sufis from the Ghula, and it's also found amongst the Shia. And obviously it has no basis on the Quran and the Sunnah, because you can just read any surah from the Quran, pretty much it's going to have like ayah that's going to respond to this. It's impossible. And obviously we have a hadith and other things of that nature that will obviously destroy this argument, but he doesn't bring any evidences. He just says this is what this is his opinion, and this is what he believes, and this is how it is, without any evidences at all.
SubhanAllah. Okay, this is going to be the last clip from me, and then I'll open it to anyone else's timestamps, or we'll open it generally to the Q&A and for any guests who may want to come on. So now we touch the topic of Palestine, and this is how they try to win the hearts and minds, or rather guilt trip, and play with the emotions of people to show that whatever they are supporting and they're upon these 2 individuals, then this is true because they've got the Palestinians back, whereas apparently everyone else who opposes them does not.
Shocked me, what really opened my eyes, was you saw these Wahhabis, someone like Shamsi going to Hyde Park and saying that we don't support the Palestinians. They deserve what they're getting because they have faulty aqidah. They worship graves. They ally with the Rafidah, and therefore they deserve to be annihilated. They deserve to be occupied until they correct their aqidah. That is what he said.
He didn't say those exact words, did he?
Not those exact words, but that is the message, not only from Shamsi, but his teacher. That is the message from Al-Albani, actually. That is the message. Al-Albani, you know his position.
I think
Al-Albani says that the Palestinians need to leave.
Yeah,
right?
It's what you would say the entailment of what they say rather than what they say. Them like to be fair here on this. Even though, I'll be honest, I've been
just Shamsi, okay?
I've been on the receiving end of
all of these. I'm talking about this entire,
the
entire Wahhabi network, okay? I'm not quoting any specific one verbatim. I've cited them, their videos. I'm not trying to distort their words, but this is their position, not the entailment of their position. Their actual position is that the Palestinians have faulty aqidah, and therefore this is why Allah is punishing them with oppression. And Al-Albani said that the Palestinians need to leave. The Palestinians should not resist.
Yes.
The Zionists, they have to actually leave Palestine and make Hijra. That's his position, which he was opposed for. And many of the other Salafi scholars, like this is the.
So the amount of lies in this one clip is astounding. Now, I'm no fan of Shamsi per se. He's a Muslim brother, but I'm not I don't know him, I've never met him. But to be fair, he did not say that the Palestinians deserve to be genocide, they deserve to be whatever was happening because they commit shirk. What he said specifically is that there's a problem there, and it's wrong. He's wrong, by the way. I've been to Palestine. I never saw what he claimed. There's grave worship and things like this, and we need to focus on this. You do have in Khalil, in Hebron, you have the alleged supposed grave of Ibrahim alayhi salam, and Ishaq, Isaac, and I think another prophet they claim. There's no evidence for this, of course. And this is a mosque, which is also a temple, is kind of divided between the Jews having one entrance, Muslims and others have another entrance. And oftentimes the Jews or the Zionists the Israelis, I should say, will desecrate it. But there was no grave worship. I did see some very clear shirkiyat once when I went to Palestine, and it was in Jerusalem, on the Temple Mount, on the Dome of the Rock, by some Indian Barelwi, because Pakistanis are not allowed. Pakistan bans its citizens from entering Palestine because they consider it occupied Palestine. Until as long as it's in Israel and Israel doesn't recognize Palestine, the Pakistan government, to their credit, refuses any of its citizens from entering Israel as a part of a boycott of their general boycott of Israel. Long may that continue. So Pakistani Barelwis aren't allowed there, but Indian Barelwis. When there was one guy sitting by the rock and he was doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But from the Arabs and the general people, I did not see any grave worshippers. So he massively exaggerated the situation, as Shamsi did, about the level of, shirkiyat and grave worship. He's never been there, so it's upon him to prove it. But let's say he did. Let's say that does occur. He still didn't say, therefore, they deserve to be genocided. He said this is why he does not support the specific resistance, who I won't name. He said that resistance needs to focus on this rather than being too pali-pali and comfy with Iran. That's the point he made. He made a political posture against the politics of the main resistance group, the authority there, on account of their causing up with Iran. Not that, therefore, all Palestinians deserve to be massacred. So that's one lie. And then another lie I want to get into is Al-Albani. He said, and they all say this, and this is their position of Al-Albani as well. A'udhu billah. Al-Albani made jihad in Palestine. He was the army chaplain when the first Arab-Israeli war occurred. The Saudis elected him because he was seen as a Levantine, and he could navigate, so they thought, better than they could. And so he was an army chaplain with the army that invaded, actually crossed into occupied Palestine. He actually made jihad. And that Sheikh Imam Al-Albani and many of his students have been consistent in calling for the removal of the Zionists from occupied Palestine. His complaint, which is where there's this lying and deception, was against the inefficiency or inefficacy of throwing stones. He said this is not what's going to remove them. In fact, he went more detail into the ayat about jihad, and he said what you need to do is to prepare your power, prepare your strength, and then remove the enemy by force, not by throwing stones, because this only causes repercussions which are more harmful. They do more harm than good. You need to be able to fight a war that you can win. This is Al-Albani's position and the position of all of Ahlus Sunnah. You fight the war that you can win. And this was well before. This is in the 90s now. He gave this fatwa. He died in 99, if I'm not mistaken. This is well before the authority that is there took over. Well before they were able to gather the forces that they couldn't do what they did on that fateful day 3 years ago. So we're talking about entirely different scenarios, different setups and occasions. And one more thing, sorry, I know the guys want to come in. One more thing, just to end on this Al-Albani issue, this issue of Hijra. They often, Daniel, and as we're about to see, Hijab will smear Al-Albani on the issue of Hijra as if to say you should capitulate to your enemy, you should act like cowards, give everything up and let the enemy run riot on Muslim Holy Land and just leave it. This is how they present it. Whereas the reality is, when this Al-Albani gave this fatwa, it was a very measured fatwa, and basically said that if you're humiliated, if you're in a state where you cannot practice your religion without humiliation, then Allah does not require you to remain in that land. Where does this come from, this notion? Shockingly, it comes from the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It comes from where we get our
You know,
Yeah.
Abdurrahman, the irony is, right? I mean, I don't think Sheikh Al-Albani was the first to make that fatwa either, was he?
I'm about to say, after Al-Albani was attacked, he was physically attacked by Sufis when he gave this fatwa, where he basically said that, look, if you're, just to repeat for the people, that for the listeners, if you're in a state where you're humiliated and you cannot manifest your religion, then it's not required for you to say that. Then Hijra is incumbent upon you under those circumstances. And that's, of course, is something each individual needs to take that into account. When Albani was attacked, one of, you could say, a student of his students, Abu Suhaib al-Ma'adiwi, who's now based in the UK, he was doing some research into Ibn Arabi and some Sufis, because some Sufi ladies had been, families had been coming to Orthodoxy, to Salafiyya. And one of the texts that Abu Suhaib was researching was Ibn Arabi's Wasiya. And in this book, Al-Wasiya of Ibn Arabi, he found a fatwa of Ibn Arabi, the great Sufi master, saying at the time of the Crusades that the Muslims in Palestine at the time of the Crusades should make hijrah lest they be persecuted or humiliated, or that they're not able to manifest their religion. And then this fatwa of Ibn Arabi got published in Jordanian press, and then suddenly the people were left a bit red-faced. So it's a lie on multiple accounts. It's a lie to say that the Sheikh, sorry, I'll let you guys come in. It's a lie to say that the Sheikh was opposed to Muslims being in Palestine. On the contrary, he said they have to fight them, but you need to have strength to fight. And if you can't fight and you're humiliated day in, day out, then Allah does not require you to be in that circumstance. And then related to that, please bear with me, it's very important. I want to bring up a clip. This is why Mohammed Hijab falls silent here, because there's a brother, he's a, you could say he's a Mu'tazilite, maybe he will self-identify as a Mu'tazilite, called Abu Layth, or a Maliki of some sorts in any sense. And he mentioned at the time of after October 7, he went into detail about the suffering of the Palestinians. And he made what I think is a valid point. He said it's not for us Muslims to expect the Palestinians to suffer on our behalf. And you can imagine, let's say there's a guy, father, his wife has been massacred by the Zionists. All his children except one young daughter who's now a cripple has survived. She's 6 years old. Are we going to say, no, you must stay there. You must stay there. You must stay. It's your jihad. That's not a question. That's not a choice.
What do you mean, the Zionists? What about the 2 million who are actually in Israel being bombed by Iran now?
So anyway,
it actually makes sense. The fact is, he's supporting Iran bombing Israel, right? Which makes sense. But you have to remember, there's still 2 million Muslim human shields in Israel alone.
Yeah. So
like that only works if you disrespect fatwa, you know. Subhanallah.
So anyway, okay. After just to now, I'm gonna end with this. This is the last clip from me, and then it's all yours, brothers, and any sisters, and anyone else who wants to join in. Muslims, non-Muslims, also invite welcome. So
sorry? Yeah, I also have a point about the Shamsi thing, but you go first as well. I wanted to go back. So just
fine. First. So after this guy Abu Layth said this thing, he said, you know, that it's and he was obviously grieving on behalf of the Palestinians, and the way it came out, maybe it came out inappropriate. He said that let the Israelis pay them to leave. You know, maybe that's inappropriate because it could be seen as you're telling the people to sell out. But the main point he was making is that we shouldn't expect them to suffer on our behalf. You know, we wouldn't want that for ourselves. We shouldn't have it for them. And he actually referenced, this is a Mu'tazilite, by the way, who mocks quote unquote Salafis himself. He referenced Al-Albani, and he goes, good on Al-Albani for making the similar point that you shouldn't allow yourself to be humiliated as a Muslim if you can. What happened after this, Mohammed Hijab did a stream, and he went on this Abu Layth character, and he attacked him, he called him a coward, and so on and so forth. Within 24 hours, this happened. This is a video recorded by the guys who went to Abu Layth's house that night.
Dirty dog, Abu Layth, who disrespect our brothers and sisters of Palestine. Yeah.
It's filthy.
Come on, motherfucker! Come on, motherfucker!
He's got his wife and kids in there, by the way.
You get me, you motherfucker! I'm gonna kill ya! They're gonna kill ya, you bastard! Musa 1! Go by his house. Go by this motherfucker's house. Get me! Talking about handing Masjid Aqsa over, you motherfucker. Look where we are, you bastard. Oh, you got police outside your house? Got police outside your house, have ya?
Dirty dog.
Right, one more clip related, and then Mohammed Hijab reacted to this. Mohammed Hijab was asked about this. He was told that, look, brother, because of your comments, a brother got attacked. He had his wife and children there. Right or wrong, you shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't have provoked violence against someone just because you differ with them. And then this was his response, or part of his response.
We're telling people to leave because they're under attack. So why don't you and take your family and leave as well, Birmingham? Because if the whole illah, if you want to put it in an Islamic sense, right? The illah is that darar, okay, or it's causing harm, and therefore they should leave, do hijrah or leave the place, yeah? Which is the same thing as, not the same, but another sheikh said this, I'm not going to mention who, right? Famous sheikh. If that's the illah, doesn't that apply to you as well? Because now you've been under attack one time. How do you know it's not going to happen again? How do you know that because of your views, which are completely anti-Islam, that you will not continually be you putting your family at risk by being in that place? So wouldn't your own reasoning be used against you here?
So this is Mohammed Hijab, who doesn't want to live in a Muslim country, by the way. Right? This is filthy. I remember messaging Abu Layth and saying that, this was terrible. This was terrifying. He was in the bedroom with his wife and children. This was terrifying. Seriously, it's disgusting. And Mohammed Hijab has to take accountability for his words. These young kids who are doing this, they acted because of this, no doubt.
And not only did he not take accountability, he actually doubled down and said, well, maybe you should leave then. If you're telling the Palestinians to leave because they're under danger, well, you're under danger. Yeah, under danger by idiot thugs who smashed his windows through, could have hurt and maybe even worse, killed his young children because of your incitement. And then you say, well, you should leave then. I mean,
disgusting.
Just want to say about Sheikh Al-Albani, rahimahullah ta'ala, is Sheikh Al-Albani, as we all know, he talked the talk and he walked the walk, rahimahullah ta'ala. Hijra is something he did himself. He left his own beautiful homeland of Shkodr. I was there last Ramadan actually, and I was shocked how beautiful the place is, how wonderful it is, how nice everything was there. And he left that lovely land for nothing but the religion of Allah. When he saw the religion of Allah was unable to practice, he and his father and his family packed their bags and moved to the land where they could practice their deen. And no piece of land is worth, once it's lost by force, stripped by force, then that land is only holy by the people who are in it. Yani al-ard, the holy land doesn't make anybody holy. So Shaykh Al-Albani rahimahullah ta'ala only had mercy for the Palestinians, only had mercy for the Muslims. And that's something, like I said, he did himself. It's not a strange concept to Islam. Hijrah is something to be done when we have been defeated by the powers of force. And Akhil Kareem, although I'm enjoying this topic very much, my computer's about to close. Look, this is my son's computer. I don't know how to charge it. Well, it's plugged in, but it's not charging, okay? Point is, Ikhwan al-Kurama, I've really enjoyed the talk, and I'm sure you've got a lot of interesting things to say, but I'm clocking out.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair.
Reminded the brothers all the way in another type of holy land, the original one, and it's very late there. It's what now? What, midnight where you are, or something like that?
Midnight.
So we have to show mercy, and we
it's the
appreciate
computer that's conking out, not me. But
okay, fair enough.
Allah
Lovely meeting you.
Abdurrahman, Allah yazikum khair.
We'll see you, brother. Thank you for being here.
Quickly,
this brings us, even the Prophet himself, when he left Mecca, he turned around and said, the reason I'm leaving is because you're kicking me out, the people. It become unbearable. And he is our guide. We wouldn't have had Medina without that hijrah.
Right.
SubhanAllah.
Brothers, can I just talk about this quickly about the previous point, because I'm Palestinian myself, right?
Yeah. Well, I can I just I have
yeah.
like 10 seconds. I just wanted to say one thing about
Yeah,
Shamsi.
quickly. Yeah, it's fine.
Just because I don't want it to go so far that it gets. Anyway, Shamsi, I was local to Shepherd's Bush where his mosque was until it got closed recently, around October 7th. And all the slander that he gets, I just want to say one thing about him is that Dar as-Sunnah, they prayed, they made dua kunut fajr for the whole month after that. And it's weird that somebody that Daniel says and people allege that has no support and no love for Palestinians, for the masjid that he goes to and him leading the dua sometimes, they were making dua for the whole month, like the Sunnah when in the time of the disaster. So I just wanted to say that again, I don't agree with everything Shamsi says, but you need to defend. He's probably one of the most slandered people there.
But was he outside the embassy taking his shirt off?
Yeah, exactly. And did he wave a flag enough?
What is that all you could do?
Anyway, sorry, Qais, you.
Yeah, ikhwa. Regarding Palestine, because of the earlier point he mentioned, I think Shamsi, there is exaggeration. I don't doubt that. I've been to Palestine myself. I know I have family in Palestine that currently are there, right? And some of my forefathers and my father's father, that type of thing, they are scholars. They did ifta in Palestine, different places, right? I think that there is something to be said that there are historical realities and problems in Aqidah in the Levant region, not just Palestine, that needs to be talked about. Because I think there is as well this kind of thing where, especially here in Arab countries, where we kind of make it out to be these people are angels.
Right.
And the brothers who live in Arab countries, they will know what I'm talking about. If you say anything negative, not about Palestine, about someone who's Palestinian, it's like, stop, brother. This guy, like, basically, he's like an angel. There are problems in Aqidah in the Levant region, not Palestine only, the Levant region, not for 10 years or not for a decade or a couple or like 50 years. It's been hundreds of years. These are problems that have been there for a very long time. Many of them due to politics, because of certain countries taking certain beliefs and ideologies and then spreading them. And I've been to Palestine, and there is issues with Sufis. There is shirk, and there's a lot of masjids that are built upon graves and all of these things. But this is not just something found in Palestine. It's found in all of the Levant region. It's all of there, all of it.
And Egypt.
And Egypt, and North Africa generally. North Africa is even more problematic.
Egypt, definitely one of the biggest ones.
100%. Like, as example, you talk about something like Sudan. Like, I don't want to go on the whole charade about Sudan, but there's a lot of, so every single there are a lot of issues that we have in the Levant region that stem from hundreds of years of issues and problems and disagreements and debates and that type of thing. So there is, like, obviously, I think there is a talk that needs to be had regarding the awam, like the general people, and that there are certain things and certain beliefs that need to be left behind. If we want to be better, we need to, the Aqidah needs to be straight, it's very straight, and we need to agree on Aqidah. We cannot have these disagreements about Tawheed, Uluhiyya with these people. We need to join together on Tawheed. This is my point. I'm not saying all of the people are bad. There are a lot of brothers I know from Palestine that are very, very good brothers and Salaf brothers and very knowledgeable. I know one brother who has 10 qira'at, actually more than 10. The brother is extremely knowledgeable. He impressed me very, very much. He came, to where I was, and we had a talk and that type of thing. So
I think,
and other brothers, not just him.
Brother, I think what it is, because there is lots of graves because of the Ottomans mostly, and because they've not been removed, and because we're not used to that in the Gulf, because the graves have been leveled, if you like. Whereas if you go throughout North Africa, the Levant, and Turkey, etc., the graves are still exaggerated. So people assume that this shirk. People assume because you've got these visual graves everywhere, and people may be visiting a grave to give salam. You can't always assume that shirk is being done. And you'll find in this day and age, a lot of the people, even like the Pakistani, even the same as the Pakistanis in the UK, a lot of them who are maybe traditionally from Braille backgrounds or, they're not having this shirk anymore. They've not been raised on that. They're taking the knowledge offline, from online, I should say. And you find even it's the same even within Arab countries. People, the default is the fitrah, and the default, the fitrah, is the correct position, the correct, if you like, akida, which is the fitrah tells you that Allah is one, only Allah deserves to be worshipped, and the fitrah itself will keep you away from shirk. But as I said, I think because of the visuals, many people mistaken that there is shirk being done, and it's not always the case. It's not always the case.
Yeah,
I think it's an uncomfortable discussion. I think it's an uncomfortable discussion because it is sometimes you don't want to accept certain things. Like what I mean by this is, I personally saw with my own eyes people doing sujood and nether and even doing dabh, and not just in Palestine, by the way. But you know what the problem is that the people are on fitrah, but there are people that are in the government and they do ifta and they do other things that are pushing the awam in this direction. And I'm not just talking about Palestine, I'm talking about generally the Levant region. So I think this is a general problem. I've had experiences where I'm on the road, and when you're on the road, adhan happens and you go pray, right? I've had it where in a certain route you don't stop in a masjid except there is and you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to get into the discussion too much, but it is extremely problem. I don't think people understand how bad it is, because people don't come here. They don't see the realities in front of us, how terrible things are. But as well, I'm not saying there is no hope. There are whole streets, ikhwa, all of them are Salafi in Palestine. All of them are Salafi. All of them are very knowledgeable. All of them very knowledgeable. There are people who are mashayikh in fiqh, in aqidah, in usul, in tafsir, in everything. But there is an uncomfortability amongst the awam because they are being led in that direction. They don't know anything better. A lot of it, by the way, is cultural. Like the families do this. Like as example with tama'im, right? With like putting, let's say putting things on your body that's going to protect you from this or that, which is shirk, as we know. This is something cultural. Even when you come to these people, you tell them it's shirk. They're like, my mother had this, and my father had this, and my mother's mother had this. So I know it's uncomfortable, but there are realities have to be talked about. And I can't, of course, it's exaggerated. I'm not saying it's not exaggerated, but it is present. 100%. There's no doubt about it.
All right, alhamdulillah. So that was all of the bits I wanted to cover. Unless anyone's got anything specific that we missed out. Of course, it was a huge stream, and there was lots of like nastiness and whatnot. And many people have taken clips and shown how even Mohammed Hijab, to his credit, had to push back when the lies got so much. I think they lie in two different ways. Mohammed Hijab lies to defensively, to defend himself, to justify himself. Whereas Daniel Haqiqatjou, his dawah is lying. Lying is what he does. That's what he will own it. Sometimes he will say, even in this stream, this I'm a lie. I mean, that's not something you should take on lightly. You should cause you concern. Why does everyone across the board, whichever religion, whichever madhab, whichever school they're from, they all consider you a lie? But anyone who interacts with you. But anyway, that was it from my side. So unless the brother got anything specific, I could bring up the stream to the public.
I have a couple of points, if you don't mind.
Sure, of course.
At 3 hours and 11 minutes in, I don't know if you can go to the same stream.
No one has been.
So 3 hours and
11 minutes. We could just watch it for a bit, and I'll tell you when to stop, and we can comment. It might be a little bit of a watch.
Okay, here we go.
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. What percentage of the Muslims even know anything about the Quran? Like, we're talking about a fraction of a fraction of a fraction who might have extreme Sufi practices. So
the comment is giving them the paycheck. He hasn't given me the paycheck yet. Where's this?
Inshallah, you'll get.
I don't want no money.
We got a 300 billion MOU signed, so by Trump himself. You saw that he signed it in Versailles. He signed this MOU with Iran in Versailles. So
unbelievable. But Akhi, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Inshallah, we'll do it again, and we'll create a bigger unity between the Muslims. Not uniformity, but unity. But that means that we have to eliminate all excesses. And bro, some of the grave practices are too much, as we discussed as well, bro. Some of them
Who's doing them? Who's doing them?
Bro, people are doing them all over the Muslim world. Some people are. I told you, I spoke to a guy. He said that I believe the Prophet is. He's actually hearing me, and he's actually gonna give me a baby himself. Intrinsic practice. This is a concern. The Salafis have a point here. Neo Salafis have a point on this. They do,
Bro,
but they go obviously
how
too far.
many-
Some of them go way too far. Yeah, I mean,
how many
and-
what percentage of the Muslims are even praying? What percentage of the Muslims even know anything about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What percentage of the Muslims even know anything about the Quran? Like, we're talking
That's
about
true.
a fraction of a fraction of a fraction who might have extreme Sufi practices. So
That's
and
right
on the
as well.
other
I mean,
side,
I
like, look at Twitter. Like, even if Twitter is a representation of like the Muslim,
I think honestly, I
ummah,
think it's more in the villages and stuff. You know,
yeah, the
do you know why?
villages, okay. So
yeah,
I
maybe
mean,
it's, I don't know how.
who is actually
it's a
active
village
on
thing, innit?
on. Do you know how many people? Let's compare the number of Wahhabis on Twitter who have takfired you on the one hand, and the number of Wahhabis who have, or the number of Sufis who believe that the Prophet ﷺ has intrinsic power. Like, which one is more?
Stop it there. Well, does anyone have any comments?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's
I
calculate
would
it.
love to see that
Yeah.
comparison. Like, can we
Let's
please
do
do
it.
that calculation? Because I'm sure that it would literally be like a 90-to-1 ratio.
No, but what type of comparison is this in the first
Yeah,
place?
and why does it matter exactly? And also the way that Daniel Haqiqatjou just says, like, yes, so, like, I mean, it's just some,
Yeah.
just some
Well, because
layman in a
Daniel
village.
has already accepted the fact
The
that
tens of millions.
you can ask the Prophet for a baby, according to Daniel. He accepted that already, so that's not shocking. The point I wanted to mention first of all is when Hijab says the Salafis go too far. What are the boundaries? What are the boundaries that we need to know what the boundaries are according to Mohammed Hijab, and so we can have unity on these boundaries. The next one is Daniel says, what percentage are even praying? Well, that's a good question. It's nothing to do with the fact that the percentage of people that are doing shirk, but the fact that they're not praying is also a problem, and maybe we can discuss that.
Yeah, one point also is like, I don't know. I don't know the actual statistics of the percentage of people praying in each country, but like, I don't know. I'd love to see what are the statistics of people praying in Salafi countries, and then compare it to non-Salafi countries. I just like to see that, but it doesn't really matter. Like, it doesn't even matter at the end of the day. It's just a weird thing to bring up, and I just find it so strange that Daniel just seems to, like, brush it. Even when he acknowledges it, he acknowledges just like, yeah, and or just so, okay, and what? It's just very, I don't know, weird.
But that's the
Like
point,
you said,
Daniel.
Just a couple people in a village, that's not a couple people, that's millions of people. There are millions of people probably like that.
I mean, if Hijab has spent any time in Egypt, it's certainly not only in the villages. I mean, you just go to Cairo, into some of the mosques,
the biggest
mosque, you're going to see lots of shirk. So anyway,
just quickly, right?
Yes.
I want to ask the brothers, brother John, how many Tijaniya do you think there are? Tijani is one of the biggest Sufi turuq. How many do you think there are?
They're big in
Millions.
West Africa, right?
Yeah, well,
like
just give me a
10
number,
million or
brother.
10
You know how
million.
much? What's the estimated number? And I think it's very low. 100 million.
SubhanAllah.
At least.
So no, let's pause here, right, on this.
Who cares,
On
though?
this
It's
point,
just a
this, and
couple
I
guys in a
think it's
village.
more actually, right? Let's pause on this point, brother. If I've read the books of the Tijaniya, I don't want to tell you, akhi, like, there is no Tijani that doesn't do shirk. And just with them, like, let's not go play without going into other beliefs and other. There is no Tijani in this universe that doesn't do shirk, because all of their beliefs are based on shirk, right? That's before, akhi, I talked to you about the Shadiriya, Naqshbandiya, the Diya, that. Before I talk to you about the other sects of the Sufis, I'm just giving you one, akhi. You go to any Muslim country. Let's go in a route, right? Choose. We want to go from this city to that city, and we'll stop in each mosque, and we'll show you. So I don't get this whole thing about this only villages and like, do these people live? Have they lived? Have they came? Have they visited here? Like, actually, you know what I feel like? I feel like these brothers come to the capitals of these cities, and they go to like shopping centers, right, and malls and stuff, and they're like, brother, where is shirk? Where is shirk? I'm going, I'm going into Gucci, the store, or I'm going into Sephora, or I'm going into this store or that store. I don't see anyone doing shirk. Yeah, brother, there's no shirk. So, and how am I going to talk to how are we going to talk to these people like the normal individuals we can have conversations with? If they don't even, they're saying it's only in villages. How is it only in villages? You know, in villages what we have them dealing with sihr and jinn. The problem with turuq is, and by the way, the Sufis are the people that deal with jinn the most. By just all of the big imam of the Sufis are all sahara. Every single one of them. With evidences from their own books, by the way. If you're not sahir, aslan, by just so you guys know, if you're not sahir, you can't be qutb, and you can't be imam, and you can't be sahir, you can't be any of this in the tariqah. You need to be sahir. Aslan, it's like a snad thing. When the big sahir dies, he inherits it to his students. He inherits the jinn to the students. But the point is, I'm trying to make is larger than these small things. The point is, you brothers think that shirk and Sufism is only in villages. So how are we going to talk to you? You don't understand the realities on the ground. So how are we going to have discussions with you? And the brothers made a very important point. There's a big issue, and I actually wanted to mention this in Palestine. You know, when I went to Palestine, the bigger issue than shirk, you know what it was? People not praying. I went to the masjid and it was empty.
Yeah. By the way,
this is the bigger issue. People talk about shirk. The bigger issue.
This happened to me. I went to where was I? I was in West Bank somewhere. It's Maghrib time. I went to the masjid. There's no one there. I turned on the electric and I called the adhan. They came running. They said, "What's the problem?" They thought there was a war. They thought we need to fight. I said, "It's time to pray." I said, "Where's the imam?" They said, "We don't have an imam." They made me be the imam. Can you imagine?
Akhi, wallahi, these are such. Akhi, I don't want to say a lot, but the youth that I saw in Palestine, specifically the West Bank, akhi, it's very problematic what's going on, and people don't want to speak about it. The masjids are empty, and those who go to the masjids, they're like 8-year-old. They're 8 years old, and they can barely see. And I'm not saying anything bad about that. I'm just saying, brothers, we're the youth. We're the people in the 20s, 30s, 40s, not even youth. What are people who have children and families? The reality, of course, shirk is a very big issue, and we don't play around with shirk. But if people are not even praying, you can't. What's the point? Do shirk or don't do shirk? You're not Muslim anyways.
Yeah.
So you're not even praying. So why we're going to discuss shirk or not shirk? You don't even worship Allah. You believe in Him. You don't worship Him. So what's the point? What's the discussion about? So there are realities. Of course, this is a good point actually that he mentioned, but he didn't use it in like in a way with good intentions, where he said, "Oh, people are not even praying." He's trying to deflect. Shirk is present in. But obviously now amongst the people, the bigger issue is people don't even pray. People don't know anything about the Prophet. People don't know anything about the Quran. But amongst the people, okay, so now we have an issue. The people who are awam, they don't pray. And amongst the people who do read and they study, they do shirk. So what are we going to do now? The people who read do shirk.
A lot of the reason the youth are not praying is because the type of Islam they've been given from their parents is this shirky Islam, which doesn't make sense. You find that we have it in UK, where you have a lot of people who are from, shirky backgrounds, right? But they're not rejecting Islam. They've rejected their forefathers' version of Islam. Does that make sense? But when they see the truth, when they hear the truth, when they hear what's expected from them, the basics, the 5 pillars of Islam, they're willing to accept it. Subhanallah. When you tell them you don't have to go and pray at that great, and it literally happens. My friend, he goes to because he lives in a Braille community. Every time there's a janazah, he goes and advises the kids, because the kids are stood there. They don't want to pray to the graves and stuff like that. And he actually gets them to come away from it. The point is, a lot of them are not rejecting Islam. It's because the version that they've been given is exaggerated. You find the same doing dhikr is good, right? But not when you need to make money and you've got your obligations of the 5 pillars. And and this is why we tell the kids, even regarding the Sunnah, make sure the 5 daily prayers first. Some of the brothers, some of the communities in England, they're giving dawah, forcing all the Sunnah salah on the youngsters as well. And it becomes a burden. That's why they run away. But when we tell them, look, stick to the 5 daily prayers, don't lose it, they're happy to do it.
People see it as fard, by the culturally, just so you know, from certain communities, they see it as fard because of the way they look at it and they talk about it, which is problematic, by the way.
If you look at Iran, the amount of apostasy, and particularly from the women, and they're heading most of the ex-Muslim organizations in Western Europe, it's because in Iran, what do they see? They see, like, if you're not self-flagellating, if you're not worshipping these demigods, you've only got one role model, and that's Fatima, bint Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's it. All the other wives of the prophets were disbelievers, except maybe Khadija, as far as they're concerned. Astaghfirullah. You've got no role models from any companions, none of their wives, none of their sisters, none of these are believers as far as the 12ers are concerned. They're all apostates and hypocrites. Women don't have souls. If you're not crying and weeping and bleeding, so what kind of Islam are they rejecting? They're rejecting an aberration of Islam. So to John's point.
But brother,
Okay,
something very important, just last thing to end, okay? There's something very important contextually, right? Some people say, okay, why don't you focus on the people who are praying, like to teach people praying, right? This is the problem, brothers, in the Arab countries. I'm going to give you now how it works. A person who's 15 years old or 16 years old, he wants to go learn Islam. Where is he going to learn Islam? He's going to go to the masjid. Okay, so now let's go to the masjid. Guess what, brothers? The masjid, who's the sheikh of the masjid? Who's the imam? Who's the people teaching in the masjid? The Sufis. So now when he learns Islam, now what's he going to learn? He's going to learn problematic things in Aqidah. So why do we have the discussion with the Sufis? It's not like we want to have fun with them and we want to have discussion with them for no reason. It's because they own the space for the youth, unfortunately. The schools, who writes the books in the schools? When you go to the masjid, who's responsible for the masjid and teaching in the masjid? So why do you guys think that we talked about the Sufis? Why do you think we talk about the Ash'aris and the other sects? It's because they, at this current moment in time, in 2026, and it's been this way for a long time, they have authority when it comes to the minds of the youth, and they have the space that we don't have. And it's been this way for such a long time, and we're trying to fight back, but we can't just let them have it. Otherwise, we capitulate to them, and they have the youth. They own the youth. So when you go to the, as example, the festivals, celebrations that they have, right, like Mawlid. Look at the amount of kids, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. Do you think they know anything about the Mawlid or anything about religion? They see their fathers doing it, they do it. Or when they go to the mosque, the people are doing it, they do it. So we need to present something to them other than that. Otherwise, we capitulate, we lose, and they win.
Yeah. This leads me to the next point, Abdurrahman. Is Abdurrahman there? Assalamu alaikum.
Sorry, I'm here. Yeah, where is the next point?
3:20.
3:20.
3 hours 20 minutes.
Okay. And then inshallah we'll bring in the we'll open the phone.
I've just got just bear with me, please. I've got a good just two or three more points because I think they're very important because it'll really round off the session in Israel.
It's not any of this stuff, Akhi. I tell you, he's a great man, and he's done a refutation of Shadi Hikmat, bro. If that was put into a peer-reviewed paper, it would be an outstanding one. Akhi, I've never, and this was before GPT. He was going into the footnotes and catching out a guy, a Yale University professor, bro. Brilliant attention to detail. It's a great guy. Jake, wallahi, with all my disappointment of what he's been doing, he's a talent that needs to be appreciated when it comes to the Trinity. Yes, and inshallah he'll come to his senses and come back to the mainstream because he'll be an incredible asset when he does come. And Hamza Zoltzis, bro, I don't think I've met a man more integrous in terms of the dawah. I tell you, Hamza Zoltzis is number one, bro. If I had to say this, Hamza Zoltzis, there's no man I've met in the entire dawah that is more honorable than Mr. Hamza Zoltzis. Wallahi, I tell you, he's a brave man.
So yeah,
he's a passionate man, and he loves the unity of the. And I tell you, I've seen him so much, like he's always protected everyone. He's put everyone before himself. He is, for me, one of the people I respect the most in my entire life.
Yeah. Okay. So
And,
let me give you an alternative perspective on this. You know,
no, Akhi, let's leave it on a good note.
No, let me give you an alternative perspective on this love fest. You know, you want to talk about the compassionate imams like Omar Sulaiman, Mufti Meng, constantly filling up. Like literally, their classes are on the basis of depicting Muslim women as queens that have to be served. Okay, and I pointed out like their advertisements for their classes, like if you go on Facebook or social media, Instagram, like you are a queen, you're amazing, you have so much potential, just gassing up the Muslim women. So you might have a lot of love because they send you. Well, let me finish.
Sorry,
they might be saying nice things to you on WhatsApp, but
yeah. So the point here is that Mohammed Hijab gave a big list of some of the du'ats he was praising, but the point is Daniel is not in the business of unity at all. You understand?
Did you see his face? His face was hilarious the whole time. Every time he mentioned the name, he was like he was like laughing inside.
He's not agreeing with this. He's not in the business of unity at all. And Mohammed Hijab quickly gets changed. Daniel quickly changes Mohammed Hijab's mind here. If we carry on to 3:50, okay, 3 hours and 50 minutes, when he finds out that Yaqeen Institute are getting 10 million plus pounds or dollars a year, he wants to refute them because they don't refute feminism, right? And in 3:55, the manhaj check for a da'i becomes whether you've refuted feminism or not, right? And at 4:16, he's shaming Mufti Menk for his silence on Israel, right? When Mufti Menk has a Zimbabwean passport, like he's already banned, and he's already banned from like 50 countries as it is. So the manhaj check for Mohammed Hijab seems to be that if you don't refute feminism and you don't speak against Israel, then we can refute you. We're not doing unity with you. Whereas the correct Islamic position, which we're promoting, is based on Aqidah. And of course, and even in that circumstance, we can still unite in certain circumstances with Muslims who may have wrong Aqidas in certain aspects. So this is, we can go to see this if you want, but I've just given people the timestamps there where they can go back and check that 3 hours 50 is when he finds out Yaqeen has 10 million and he wants a piece of the money. And that seems to be because, you know, they're not refuting feminism, which he views as the number one problem for Muslims leaving Islam, which we've already established and spoke about today. The number one problem is not conveying the correct Islam, not giving the correct dawah to the youth. It's not feminism, it's not atheism, it's having the wrong understanding of Islam in the first place. If you have a correct, solid grounding in Islam, you can bring whatever you like. You can refute all the isms and schisms that there is. So I just wanted to mention that because Hijab's whole point is unity. Daniel doesn't want any of it. And the unity we want is based on is arbitrary unity, which Mohammed Hijab chooses. In this instance, it's whether you've refuted feminism or not. And it's just ridiculous, you know. The fact that he can, you know, come after Muslims like ourselves who are basically just calling to people to come back to the correct basic Islam, it's just shocking.
Jazakallah khair. So, okay, I think now that we'll open the floor up, and I want to make Qaisi a and if you could just post any kind of
I posted.
You just right now. Just so it's correct, because otherwise
I'm gonna post. I'm gonna post a dot. I just posted a dot.
Perfect. Okay. It's because there's so many.
Yeah, no, but the brother mentioned very good points.
Found you.
So thank you, brother John Fontaine.
Okay, how do I do this?
Brother, when you hover over my comment on the right, there is 3 dots.
Yeah.
There you can.
I'm not getting the option. Maybe can you do it, John? Because I've made you a moderator already. Can you make? It's the very last comment. Sunni critiques. It's not giving me the option for some.
I see the comment. You could do it to me too as well.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know why it's not letting me. It just says delete comment, put user in timeout.
Yeah, it won't let me.
What's going on here? Subhanallah. We've been hacked. All right. Okay. So for those patiently waiting, your wait is over. I'm going. Already people have come in. I'm going to put the link now. And as said, if you can come in backstage, we can see you. We know you're real. And then we let you on. Please try to keep your.
Okay, there's a more difficult way to mod me, but you have to go on. You have to go on YouTube Studio and then go to community and put my channel URL.
Yeah, that might be a bit of a
That
mission.
might be a bit difficult.
Bit of a mission. I don't know why I can't.
I can just spam the link like
Yeah.
every minute, every couple
Okay.
minutes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'll put it on the banner as well. I'll
Tell
make.
you what we
Yeah.
do as well, Abdurrahman, before
Yeah.
we leave, I mean, when we finish the stream, if we can just keep the brothers up slightly behind, and let's fix all this before we go, so we're ready for next week.
Yeah.
It's
Good
quite
idea.
easy to do.
Good idea. Okay. So anyway, the stream link and the brother can spam it. Trey can spam it whenever, as and when he likes. I've just put it up. We apologize for these technical things, but I made Wonder Bro a mod, and now he's not letting me do anything with the mods. It's crazy.
He's taking over.
Yeah, it's taken over. The AI has taken over. Right. Anyway, have we got someone in the back? We've got. Okay, Abu Adam, I'm going to bring you up.
Fine.
Yeah, just be careful, okay?
Okay, and we have. Should we let two people up at once, or should we let? Let me get rid of
one
this.
at a time. Yeah.
Okay, let me get rid of this video. Okay, and then we've got Dr. Hotha waiting in the background. He can come on straight after, inshallah. So go ahead, Abu Adam.
Yeah, Jazakallah khair. Thank you for your weekly addition now to this excellence in dawah, and just trying to monitor what's going on and try to stay the course. Jazakallah khair for all of you brothers helping this. I noticed in one of the clips that you played earlier on, Mohammed Hijab actually came on a stream with Sneeko, and whilst he was there, he mentioned that, these madkhalis or these Salafis, they're actually very limited in number. They're about 15 to 20,000, and they have Abu Khadija has said that in the UK and so forth. And he was trying to gatekeep Sneeko. Sneeko has a very wide, reach now, and he was just trying to. They're almost trying to gatekeep all of these, up and coming people who are new to the Deen. Yeah. They want to get the right information, and they're kind of leading them astray into this kind of weird ikhwanism, And I've got no idea why they've decided to say that the Madkhalis or the Randkhalis or whatever, the Wahhabis, then it's gone into ethno nationalism, Najdis, and all this, and it's just exploded. If it's not one thing, it's another. But it looks like they're going for the root. They're trying to stop the knowledge from getting to these people, because I'm sure if Sneeko met any of those brothers, Amjad Rafiq or Abu Khadija or any of the other brothers, they'd get very decent advice. They'd get advice, which is based on the Quran and Sunnah.
I'm almost positive he's met with Shamsi before.
Yeah.
Pretty positive he has, and said good things about him after it. I could try and find it, but it would be a long time ago. This is maybe 2 years.
I think it's a market of ideas at the end of the day, right? Everyone wants to get their share of it. So Muhammad, we say a lot of things about Mohammed Hijab, but it must be said he's very good at this. For good or for bad or worse, or for good or bad. He's
Right.
very good at, when he sees someone who's up and coming, he's instantly on that. Instantly he's in his DMs. Like before you even think about it.
He's like a scout.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's a good scout. He's getting all the talent, and he knows that Sneeko is the biggest player in this. There is no bigger player than Sneeko. That's why, in fact, actually, I think that the things that Sneeko says have more of a bad impact if he says something negative than Mohammed Hijab.
He got Andrew Tate on a podcast like a week after he converted to Islam or something like that. He's like,
Go ahead, Abu Adam. Go ahead, Abu Adam.
Yeah, no, I mean, this whole thing about, and also they're funded. He's always talking about the fact that the Salafis are funded. I mean, this is, it's.
I wish
annoying.
I'm open. Send your money.
He's getting the money.
Yeah, bring it on.
Come on.
Where's this coming from? And
my roof.
The irony is that he worked for Ayera and Sapiens, who have had probably more funding than many Salafis from the Gulf and from Salafis. And and the fact that he's coming out doing this is disrespect to all the brothers and sisters who supported the dawah in the UK. And I know that his colleagues don't support him. They do appreciate the support. So I hope the people in the Gulf and all over the world that have supported the likes of Ayera don't get put off because they're not supporting him. And it's horrible that he would do this. Disrespectful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So,
I mean, the other thing about calling them Rand Khalis as well, about the Rand influence, and but one of the things about the Rand thing is that they want Sufism to be promoted, and this is the direction also the Ikhwanis very quickly jump to Sufism as well. So this is where they're steering everybody, and this is why they're saying all these strange things about istighatha and shirk and controlling the atoms and promoting this kind of rubbish now. It's because they probably are, literally doing that work. But it's like the way the Zionists, every accusation is a confession for them. It feels like this new group of da'is are doing the same thing to the Salafis and eroding the very base where the knowledge is at.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Like you can defeat one doubt. You can defeat one doubt, but there's going to be another doubt coming, whether it's feminism, this, that, the ones that he's mentioned. But the only solution is to prepare the Muslims with the correct sound knowledge, so that they're capable of remaining on the deen, no matter what doubt comes to them.
Yeah.
But that's what they're attacking. They're attacking the clear message. And it's sad because that is why that's why youth are leaving Islam. Because they, as I said, they don't like their parents' version of Islam. It's not that they're leaving the true message of Islam. They were leaving the watered down or the corrupted version that they've been taught from home.
Yep, indeed. All right then, brother. Is there anything else you'd like to say as we move on to the next guest?
Please join us again in the future.
In fact, yeah, tell us more about what you do as well next time as well. There's more to this man than meets the eye. Inshallah. Okay. All right.
Thank you, brother.
Okay, we have now the infamous Dr. Hotha. Welcome to the stream.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam. Hayyak Allah, Shaykh.
It's an honor to be here in your stream. By the way, I'm a big fan of Sheikh Abdurrahman. I've learned a lot from him. I mean, I've been very thankful and grateful of his contributions in his videos. And I was taught the history of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab and Dawla Saudi al-Ula, the first Saudi state. But I can say, when I revised a lot of his videos, first of all, they're very entertaining. And I repeated them like 100 times before the hijab interview. So I like to thank him for his content and his contributions to knowledge and ilm. Barakallah feek. Yeah. So I think I came today to basically kind of give my comments on the interaction I had with him. I can say I am shocked to say the least. We had a little bit of a fair interaction on Twitter, friendly, not too harsh. This is the environment of Twitter, very respectful, but contagious a little bit. So before he has asked me in the past to come on his stream, and a lot of the brothers said don't do it. He's a I got you guy, etc., etc. And I kind of didn't really try to go on it, but then he emphasized the second time. During the time he was talking about how everybody was racist to him. So I said, you know what, let me do it. I talked to him on the DMs. I said, listen, Muhammad, I don't want this to be a fight between Muslims and whatnot. We're not going to agree, obviously, but you want to know what my belief of what a patriotic Saudi is and how that has nothing to do with being contagious against Islam. Islam comes first, obviously. He was calling me a nationalist and against Islam and whatnot. And the other thing was the things that I in my understanding, feel that he did not give justice to the life and the history of Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. And it went from that to who speaks Arabic better, to are you calling me the N-word? I'm a black Annie. It's very disgusting. I have never insulted him in that stream, but yet he has claimed victimhood, which is first of all weak, second of all very selfish to people that actually have victimhood, and I think it's I didn't like it, even if يعني, he came in a very bad picture, and I felt that I didn't. It's at the end of the day, we're both Muslims, and in the eyes of the non-Muslim, we do represent one religion, and it is an embarrassment to have this kind of interaction and this kind of hysteria when he is considered an academic in his realm. You know, I'm not the most knowledgeable in Islam. I consider myself knowledgeable in history. I've studied history, but in the theology of it, يعني, I think that Muslims should have better mannerisms and akhlaq when interacting with each other, especially.
Yes, subhanAllah.
A quick question to the brother. In retrospect, do you think there is anything that you would have said differently, or
and I do agree with the brothers regarding the Daniel Haqiqatjou and his intellectual dishonesty. I think it is a shame. I think it is not fair. I think it is يعني very mischievous and يعني meticulously tailored to give a bad picture, and then at the end they would claim, hey, we want to stop division, we want to stop the division the Salafis are making, the Wahhabis are making, the Wahhabis are creating all this division, when in fact they jump into Twitter, call the people of Najd toothless bandits, call them people without shoes, etc., etc. Brings and then brings pictures of NBA players, and then the King Abdul Aziz next to him, and insulting both black people and King Abdul Aziz, and then claiming يعني, that these Saudis are racist because a guy with 30 followers and an egg for a picture says, you know, swears at you. يعني, this is really ridiculous. Where you have a person like Haqiqatjou who has followers, you know, almost 1 million followers, would post these disgusting racist stuff, and then they would themselves claim victimhood. It's just يعني, not only is this not the mannerisms of a Muslim, it's not the mannerisms of a man, it is intellectually dishonest, it is weasel-like, and it is counterproductive. It is counterproductive for the Ummah as a whole. It is the only person who might gain from this. It's probably either themselves because of content creation, or the enemies of Islam. And I've said this, they are the best Hasbara unit, them two. I think they are better than any veteran Hasbara unit can ever do. And يعني, it's the damage is a lot. And I don't claim to be an angel. We all have mistakes and falls out, but يعني, to intentionally abuse Islam da'wah, in my view, I might be wrong, but in my view, to intentionally abuse this for self-gain is injustice.
Definitely. The manners is so important. I mean, if you see the way he was treating you and speaking over you and trying to force you into a box, which he wanted you to say, trying to force you to say the answer that he wants in a specific way. He didn't do that with Daniel. If you notice, he was laughing and joking. He wasn't speaking over him. He wasn't trying to trap him. He
wanted me to go to jail. He wanted me to put me in a situation, which is
exactly.
It's very, very يعني, low.
And I mentioned last week that one of the
I saw it. I was watching your stream. I loved it, by the way. Yeah.
He mentions when Ibn Taymiyyah protected his enemy, where and I'm thinking, why are you not protecting your enemy then?
Hypocrisy is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about massacres. What about the massacres in Egypt? Let's speak about. We all know we can't. We're wise. We know how the world is. That's how it is, and it was just not nice. It's again, it's not seeing the other as Muslim, and it's not nice to treat your brothers like that.
And a lot of people, and I read I read like most of the comments that were related to my videos that I posted, and it's a mixed feeling for me, because I'm not really happy that people hate him. Wallah al-alim, I'm not. And when people read the comments, I saw a lot of people, young Muslims, that were that really looked up to him, you know, like especially the Saudis have never seen him in this manner. That really looked up to him. And when they saw that behavior, it's kind of like, you know, when you meet an icon or a hero, and then he becomes somebody really. So a lot of people in the comments were really disappointed. And it's very unfortunate that he would carry himself when he has all this responsibility as a Muslim to the community itself. He should not have, carried himself. And you know, it's unfortunate.
Right? You're not a sheikh. You're not a sheikh.
No, I'm not. I'm not. I am a student of history. I'm a physician. I have nothing to do with all of this da'wah. I'm a physician, but I've always had history and the history of the first Saudi state as something I like. Go ahead.
One thing, when the thing is, from the Western perspective, when they see the Qutra and the Igal, they think, oh, it's a big sheikh. So for them, it's like always refuse the big sheikh from Saudi Arabia. Well, I just want to make
I'm just wearing a jeans and t-shirt. This is not. I just want to look nice for TV. That's all. No sheikh, not at all.
And this is the normal attire in the Gulf.
Yes. This is a regular formal work clothes. Let me say it this way. You guys are too knowledgeable for me to be casual today. So I had to bring the best.
Not at all. You'll give us imposter syndrome if you keep speaking like that.
Well, subhanAllah, we're just trying to give some balance to the situation. You know, it's a lot of the youth, as you said, even in Saudi Arabia, can be fooled by some of the famous people online, and we really have to be careful and not just take everything we hear for granted. Yeah.
You know, brother, wallahi, Muslim youth are looking for a win. They are looking for a win. And when they see a da'wah in the UK and how these people are succeeding and winning the arguments against the non-Muslims in these debates, and they feel the win, they feel the intisar. You know what I mean? So for them this is why they like them. This is why they follow them. And this is a good thing. It's not always good to feel like you are the loser, you are the noble, we're always losing in Islam. No, it's good to win. And I think a lot of these youth were hungry for a win. We're hungry for a win. And these people actually gave them some of that when they had strong arguments, strong hujjah against non-Muslims in the debate, which is a good thing. This is why my main reason, to be honest with you, my main reason in Twitter was actually to debate Zionists, to debate non-Muslims, mainly Zionists, two-state solution, Israel. Not really debating Muslims. Most of the people on my Twitter page that I debate, like Nick Matau, Yehuda, these Jewish people that I debate, and these Zionist people that I debate that are pro-Israeli. So for me to come in his stream was something where I did not want to debate. I wanted this to be, and it's unfortunate that it was the least respectful one. The Zionists have given me more cordial muamala than, which is something I hate to say. Maybe it was a bad day for him. Subhanallah.
Yeah.
Brother, quickly, I need to ask you something because the people.
And again, I don't want to take a lot of your time. Thank you so much, Abdurrahman. Again, I can't emphasize how big of a fan I am of your content. Please do not stop creating it. I love the rhymes and the jokes as well. They do hit. Don't think you don't notice that.
I'm glad someone does.
Yeah. So thank you guys. Barakallah fikum.
Casey just has one question, brother.
I just wanted to ask you, brother, because people are keep mentioning this Palestinian thing.
And I can't hear him, by the way.
We can hear him. Maybe speak
I
up.
I was. There was a moment of silence with the previous guest also. I can't hear him
because people keep accusing him of things, and he needs to defend.
Should I
himself.
refresh or something?
Yeah, maybe we can.
Well, I can say. I mean, he's just asking about. I think the people
in the chat keep
in the chat keep commenting about some video about Palestinian women.
Yeah,
if you want to defend yourself here.
Yes, absolutely. I didn't want to mention it, but it's good that it was asked to me. This was a clip that was doctored a long time ago, around a year and a half ago, where it took me out of context. It edited, different clips of different events, and some of it is me, some of it is not me. It is not an authentic clip of me. It is not in context of the full clip. You do not hear what happened before it. The pattern of it is not right. They again took things out of context, put them there, and foul language was used. But again, that was not me completely. The worst part of it was not me, I promise you. It was again doctored and edited. And by the way, I've made this clear like 2 years ago. This is not a new clip. This is an old clip, doctored again and edited. And I've answered this question so many times. I don't feel it anymore, to be honest. I can't answer that question anymore. But yeah, and every time I have an opponent that is low and that cannot really get into the argument, he would try to use these kind of things with me in these tactics, and I really don't care anymore. And to be honest, if you look at the stream, he tried in many moments to have a "I got you" moment. He tried to say, do you condemn Israel as if this is something a Saudi wouldn't do? Do you condemn the Abraham Accords as if this is a Saudi wouldn't do? And then do you condemn MBS? Then I said, why would I condemn MBS? He gives you a laugh and "I got you" moment. And then when he feels he doesn't get something, he goes ahead on something else. You guys pay jizya to Trump, $1 billion. You guys have this and that. And then he goes back to Mohammed bin Abdul Wahab. And then and then at the end, when he got really, I think, anxious and really anxious, he used that clip, which is very low. And I think if it means anything, it only means that he could not take the argument in hand and had to bring something to kind of lower the person in front of him if he couldn't have an "I get you" moment, in my view. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, if you could, even I listened to it myself a few times, as I know the other brothers did, and you can hear a different voice there. Of course, it's not your icon either, and and if it was you,
no, it was not fully me. Parts of it was me, but the worst things that was said is not me. It was doctored, and again, it was edited, taken out of context. It's a work of somebody that just wants to misrepresent me and who I am. And people that are on Twitter know me. I'm only there to debate Israelis. Why would I insult somebody, a Palestinian woman this way? I mean, I have been desensitized of this accusation at this point. It's 2 years now. And what can I say?
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what was said, it doesn't affect what you said with hijab here. And like you said, this is just a classic tactic of anyone who's losing an argument is to go and say, well, yeah, but
Absolutely.
You did this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've now asked him, and he's a Muslim, and we believe the Testament, we believe the Muslim. I'm not gonna take him as a liar. So these people in the comments should just, I don't understand.
Yeah, you guys need to calm down.
Yeah, and again,
this is a crazy cope right here because
I've noticed something I've noticed something when I came into Twitter, and I really hate victimhood and everybody's against me or whatnot. I hate that. I really do. But I've noticed that a lot of the Muslim community this is the reason why I came into Twitter in the first place, before the Zionist debating, is that either they have a misunderstanding of the Da'wah Najdiyah, misunderstanding of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, misunderstanding of the history of Saudi Arabia, misunderstanding of how Saudi Arabians and people that live in Saudi Arabia and Muslims that live in Saudi Arabia act, present themselves, and what they who they truly are. And we have been, and I really think this is not the fault of them being ignorant only. I think this is a devised tactic of propaganda that has come from non-Muslims to really make these people blind. They see us as if, a lot of these Muslims see us as if we are these Zionist Israelis of the Muslim world. We are the chosen people, and we see ourselves better than everybody else. Never have any Saudi claimed that. Never have we claimed that we are better than everybody else. Never have we claimed that we are superior as a race to everybody else, or we are the chosen people of Allah. Allah يهدي من يشاء يكتم قلب من يشاء. وصراحة I think this is not fair accusation. And when they meet you already, they don't give you the benefit of the doubt. You are a racist. You are just like how Hijab did. Hijab took me as a racist. I never insulted him once. Never called him the N-word. Never called him an African. Never. There was no Saudi that had a big account that insulted him with racism or considered him a non-Muslim or called him a Zionist Jew or any of that, right? You would see small accounts. They could be anybody. They could be Jews, Israelis, whatever. They could be anybody. They could be non-Muslims, Muslims. It's not a fair take on Saudis. I think that racism is evident all over the world. And something Hijab said, which I totally disagree with, saying that the alt-right of the UK have, like Tommy Robinson, have better ethics than the Muslims in Saudi Arabia. I reject that completely. If you live in Saudi Arabia and you see how Muslims live in Saudi Arabia, Saudis and non-Saudis, they live in harmony, they live in unity. My neighbor is a Syrian, my other neighbor is an Egyptian. I have Pakistani physician co-workers. Alhamdulillah, especially in Saudi Arabia, we are blessed that we are given the opportunity to be exposed to all sorts of different types of Muslims. Something that not all Muslims around the world actually have this opportunity. They, in fact, are the ones that could be isolated from the other Muslim world. I am, alhamdulillah, in a blessing that I can meet my brothers that are Muslim from all around the world that live, and their life is in Saudi Arabia. And again, does racism exist? Of course it exists. And I don't claim to be the perfect person. I don't think anybody's perfect. But to isolate Saudi Arabia as if this is a characteristic of it is really not authentic. I think Saudi Arabia is one of the best places as a Muslim to live in harmony, in unity, and would not see any racism and isolation. So to compare that to Tommy Robinson and the alt-right, I think that was an insult to Saudi and to Muslims in general. And I reject that.
Yep.
And the accusation about him and insulting Sheikh al-Fadil, Fadl Salih al-Fawzan was unacceptable. The insults of the scholars of Najd is not acceptable from Mohammed Hijab. The insults of King Abdul Aziz and the Saudi people from Haqiqatjou is not acceptable. And people really, really did not accept that. They really did not like that. And this is why he got a lot of backlash on Twitter. And you rage bait people and you don't expect them to reply is stupid.
Jazakallah khair. Thanks for.
Barakallah feek.
Jazakallah, Doctor.
مع السلامة. مع السلامة.
Okay. Who should we have on now? Shall we? Okay. Dots.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam
wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Good to see you on here. Yeah, Jazakallah khair and Ikhwan for having me on. So I had a quick question, which I feel that lay public would benefit from as well. I'm not sure if the issue had already been addressed early on in the stream because I joined just not long ago. So when it comes to the unity with these deviant sects like the Shias and whatnot, usually the pushback from the likes of Daniel Haqiqatjou and Hijab, it comes down to, if the Prophet ﷺ himself made alliances with the kuffar at the time of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah or the Constitution of Medina with the Jewish tribes, etc., then who are we not to make alliances at the time when we Muslims are in a weak position, right? If I'm not mistaken, I think Daniel, he pointed this out about Adnan Rashid yesterday, or it was day before yesterday. And I think he, on one of his podcasts, I think Adnan pointed out that Muslims in the subcontinent should unite with the Hindus to work against the Western powers, right? And if I'm not mistaken, I think he took it down because I was trying to find it to send to Brother John so you guys can share it and shed some light on it, So I wanted you to address that as well, because there's a little bit of confusion when it comes to lay public as to when we need to unite with the kuffar or with the deviant sects and when we should not. Right?
Do I answer this, or does someone else want to?
You go ahead, brother.
Okay. First of all, the question is to be asked, brother. If I were to ask you, what was the nature of the deal? Like when the Prophet did it, what were the things that were present in front of him for him to make that decision? And is this the same compared to, let's say, the Hindus in whatever, in India or whatever? Is it the same?
No, it's not. That's exactly why I said I think it was taken out of context, right? Like I have an answer for when somebody asks me, it may not be eloquently put as you might put it, but
the point of the question, is not to question you. It's a question to the people who are making this claim, because there is something very important. Is us uniting with quote unquote uniting or making a deal, is it based on politics or religion? Like even when the Prophet would make a treaty, he would not make a treaty with Christianity. He wouldn't make a treaty with a religion or a sect. This is not how it works. He makes a political decision. This is a political decision.
Right.
This is the issue this is what, when you're a hakim, there are certain decisions that you have to make that are political in nature, that are based on your understanding of qawa'id al-fiqh, right?
and other sciences. And the person who has the knowledge, he's the one to make this decision, right? In fact, and even when the people want to talk about the Hindu issue that's present, why do you think it's present? You know why the Hindu issue is present, Akhi, when you go back to history? It's because of the wrong political decisions that we have made in the past with the Hindus that have caused them to reach this point and cause the issues that they cause right now. I don't want to go into too much depth into that. Maybe we can have another discussion about that. But the point is that no person who is sane in their mind is gonna make this kind of comparison of the Prophet and issues that we have now at the moment in time. We are not, I repeat, we are not gonna have any kind of let's make a deal with Sufis or let's make no. This is not how it works. Countries can make decisions to have other treaties or things that. Of course, this is based on maslahah. This is based on benefit. If there is benefit in it, we do it. If there's no benefit in it, we don't do it. And there are times where we can do it. So I think that the very important thing, this is really for the scholars. Like when it comes to nawazin, when it comes to specific scenarios in specific times, the scholars are the ones who talk about these issues and they bring the benefits and the harms, and then they see which outweighs the other. And then they make that decision. That's what I have to say about it.
Jazakallah khair, akhi. Yeah, I totally agree with you, but I think the pushback from these people would be that nobody's asking, the Athari or the Sunni Muslims to turn into Shias or agree with them, be it the 12 Shias or whomever, right? Or go to their mosque or take part, in their entire thing in during Muharram or something, right? But their agenda, I think, if I were to steelman their argument, is that they're asking for a political alliance, not necessarily an Islamic, quote unquote, Islamic alliance.
But what comes with it? I've understood. What comes with it? Okay, people are talking about let's have a political alliance with the Shia. What comes with it? Does no legitimizing come with it? When the Sunnis put their hands with the Shia, whether politically or otherwise, does no legitimizing come from it? When we have normal interactions and we're like on a friendly basis, or okay, we're going to do this for a greater cause. What about them insulting the wives of the Prophet? What about their belief in when it comes to Tawheed? What about this? What about that? So it doesn't come with any. So okay, people want to have let's say you have that political deal, right? Maybe there are benefits, but let's say financial or otherwise. But what comes first? Because okay, when we make these deals, let's say that when the Prophet made the deal with the kuffar, the treaty, right? He signed the treaty with the kuffar. Did Islam lose anything? Like did we lose any aqidah? Did people say, the Prophet he did with the kuffar, let's become kuffar like them? But now let's say the Sunni Muslims, they make a deal with the Shia. So this is a completely different image of the situation, the scenario. We already have a big issue amongst the Arab people in Arab countries where they have this kind of favorable view on Shiism. Imagine if the Muslims now come and they put their hands with the Shia. It will be 10 times worse. So, okay, I get it. They're talking about it from a political stance, but it is completely delusional to say, we're just going to make this political decision, but it's not going to come with any repercussions when it comes to Aqidah and other issues that are very important. And let's say it can help in the short term. What about the long term? What about the youth? What about the next generation? So I think this is completely ridiculous. I think this has no basis in reality. People can make whatever arguments they want to, but the awam, the people who are just the layman people, this will harm them, whether you like it or not. Maybe the people who are more learned, they would say, we're going to make this political decision, but it's going to have no ramifications. No, this is stupid, in my opinion.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to go now. For some reason, my battery is about to go.
No, it's not just you. We've actually gone 15 minutes over. It's
I'm not
15 past
sure
midnight.
the charge is not working.
No.
Draining my battery and it's not.
It's all good. We're gonna have to call it a day. It's 15 minutes past anyway. So, Jazakallah for everyone for participating. Thank you, the last visitor, guest Fuad, and thank you all the co-panelists. Any final words from me? It's a simple thank you all for being here.
Say thank you for inviting me, and it was lovely to speak with Casey and Brother John Fontaine. So and Khalid while he was here. So yeah, thank you, Barakallah Fiq, and inshallah I hope to participate more inshallah in the coming weeks.
Good to see you. Make sure you're here next week, inshallah.
Inshallah, of course.
Jazakallah khair, and thanks for having us, Abdurrahman, and organizing all the clips. I know preparing for these is not easy. And but as you say, we, subhanallah, especially there's so much content to go through these days. So inshallah, hopefully we can stick to it and bring some perspective to the people and explain what's going on and bring some clarity. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك